guys. Fuck.
Today's video is sponsored by Rocket Money. I recently discovered that I had been
Suicide Pact Day.
subscription for
Let's set one up. Who wants to join the Suicide Pact? Are you in?
recently, but it didn't. Rocket Money has stopped that from happening. I was basically but that does not change the fact that if I would have known about Rocket Money earlier, I would have saved a lot more money. I'm leaking. There's just money going in all these various places, and I have no control over it. That's where Rocket Money comes in. It's been a lifesaver for me. It's an all-in-one finance platform that is incredibly helpful in helping you save more money by spending less. You can easily cancel subscriptions. They can negotiate bills down on your behalf, which is crazy. There's also budgeting features for those who are budgetally impaired. It's eye-opening. It's a cool app. It's a very helpful app. It's an eye-opening app. I love it. On top of that, it monitors your credit score. Very important for me. I'm always using my credit and leveraging debt and all that kind of stuff. I'm stupid. It's like having a financial advisor in my pocket that helps me be smarter. It's a sponsor of today's video. Go to rocketmoney.com/UPA or click the link in the description. You can get started for free and unlock even more features with the premium subscription. Seriously, all this stuff helps the channel. If you guys want hard-hitting, edgy covering of the news and other events, this is what makes it possible, right? This is what keeps us unbiased. It's not the royal family. It's not Ryan and his gigantic family. It's the Kardashians.
You know, you keep popping these kids out like Tic Tacs, I mean, we're gonna have a whole family to raise. Thanks for opening up, babe.
And I have proof to back it up because it's awesome, and they have a gigantic church, and they've got a few skeletons in the closet, and this is an insane, crazy-ass story, and I feel like the Kardashians are going to have shooters at my doorstep as soon as this video goes live. So anyways, I already was talking trash on O.J. Shrimpson. It all ties in. It all comes full circle. All right, guys. It's black and white. For real, though, this family has been everywhere for a long time. Basically, since I've been around and paying attention to shit, I've seen the Kardashians. I saw Kim K get cored like an apple by Ray J.
How much have you made off the thing?
It's still making money now. So it is, but
It's been lucrative for both of you.
We even saw the greatest commercial of all time. PewDiePie made a video. Remember that when he made a video? It was a different time on YouTube for sure.
Everyone is happy now. It solved everything. All you had to do is give him a pet.
Kanye was even part of the old Kardashian cult for a good while, and I think that's probably what finally broke the man.
I've never used our pool, actually.
What?
Yeah, but I love our pool. But, you know, we don't have a jacuzzi.
Can you believe that? Can you believe we don't have a jacuzzi? People were mad at me the other day for saying Northwest was Kanye's son, and she babysat Northwest, Kanye West's son.
Alright, Kanye, what do you want to do? You want to make fun? You want to go see my room? You want to play with Bobo?
Dude, I don't f***ing know. Alright, I don't keep tabs on famous people. Alright, and North, it does not, I don't know what that is. I don't know what kind of name that it is. Anyways, the Kardashians have been rotting the brains of all of us, well, not actually all of us, for generations of years worth of relevancy in the popular culture zeitgeist. Okay? Zeitgeist. Put it up, not Blitzkrieg. They've been around for centuries in terms of pop culture stuff. I especially love the clip of Kim Kardashian ugly crying after losing a diamond earring.
Chris, he throws me in the water. I land on the side of my head, and I feel my earring is gone.
My earring's gone! My diamond earring came up in the ocean. My diamond earring's gone. And there's people that are dying.
So how could this possibly be something that's even worth any of our time? Well, friends and family and viewers and precocious predators, I don't know. It goes pretty deep, and it's going to be a little bit to explain it, but I'll try my absolute best. Have you ever seen Righteous Gemstones?
Baby Billy's Baba Bonkers.
Baba Bonkers.
Baby Billy's Baba Bonkers.
Baby Billy's Baba Bunkers. The Kardashians seem to be going the same route as the Gemstones.
Hi, my name's Hannah, and I'm here to show you how students can use Otter to make lectures and campus events more accessible and inclusive. As you can see, Otter uses AI to create notes for in-person and virtual lectures. which can be super helpful for students that may have accessibility needs. Because Otter runs in the background on the laptop or mobile device, all students can be more engaged in participating in the lecture, knowing they'll have automated notes to refer back to. Students can make highlights or comments about important things a professor said, and they will appear in the takeaways panel for recall later. Let's dive into an example lecture. This is Oceanography 101. Otter creates an audio recording, writes the notes, and will capture any slides shared during the lecture. And now students can ask Otter's AI-powered study assistant, OtterChat, questions about the lecture. Some examples might be, what are the key topics from this discussion? As you can see, OtterChat will create an overview of the key topics covered during this lecture. Another question you can ask OtterChat is to give me a multiple choice quiz and hide the answers. This will prompt OtterChat to create a quiz based on the day's lecture. You can also ask OtterChat, did the professor mention what will be on the test? OtterChat will search through the transcript and find any time the professor mentioned what might be on the exam. Students will get answers instantly based only on an AI analysis of this lecture. Thanks.
Family in the righteous gemstones. Any of you who understand that? High five in the comments.
Bible bunkers. Baby Billy Bible bunkers.
Yeah, Baby Billy's Bible Bunkers. Baby Billy's Bible Bunkers.
And subscribe and press the like button. YouTube does this cool thing where it makes a little explosion now, or like a little ring bell. It's kind of weird. I don't like it very much. For those of you who are uncultured, the reference is they had their own church, all right? And they are exceptionally charismatic, just as Baby Billy.
By the time I pay my scientists, all the people in my lab, my developers, the lab rats, it's a wash. Well, why you do it then, Baby Billy? 'Cause I'm selfless. And I want to heal as many people as the dear Lord will let me.
And I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of surprising that they've got their own church. I knew Kanye West had a church or like a Sunday service thing where it's really confusing and it looks like a cult. It really looks cultish. They're all wearing the same shit. I'm for it, honestly. I think we take cults to another level. Everybody start making a cult. Each town has its own cult. They wouldn't let me in now. I'm not anti-Semitic.
I'm not going to say what race, what people, doctor.
I don't know. I did just assume that anything Kanye West is involved in, you have to be an anti-Semite. I'm not sure though.
It was a Jewish doctor.
We'll be discussing this church today and some of these not so well kept secrets involving it and the dark nature of the various bits of information that are contained within the walls of this side quest. This is a fucking crazy ass side quest the Kardashians are going down, and it's a little bit complicated. The church is located in the beautiful Agoura Hills, California. It is so beautiful. Look at all this scenery. It's an area surrounded by state parks, reservations, beautiful overlooks Topanga. Ever heard of Topanga? You've probably heard of Topanga. I've heard of Topanga, okay? And that's like impressive that I heard of something. You got Red Rock Canyon Park, Upper Las Virgenes thing, Cheeseboro and Palo Camado Canyon, I think. Also the Santa Monica Mountains. Looks like a pretty cool area. Look how beautiful all this shit is. it doesn't make it look beautiful at all. It looks like if Texas and Afghanistan had a child. It doesn't look that good, to be honest. It's an expensive ass area, incredibly overpriced. A single family home will cost you $1.5 million, and a plot of dirt will cost you two. Amazing. So you know there's a lot of really nice rich people there and stuff. It is so fucking unreasonably expensive that Agoura Hills housing expenses are 219% higher than the national average. That is crazy. Utility prices, 11% higher. I thought utilities were like controlled. The prices were like controlled, you know? Who the fuck would live here? No offense to any scientists or other liberal arts people. Science is my favorite liberal art. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking around. I just say things that aren't true, okay? Because that's funny to me. So, the church presents itself as one of acceptance for people of all backgrounds, creeds, mottos, and levels of success, despite of it being in Agoura Hills, okay? On the church's website, they say that there are no perfect people here, which is kind of an awesome, funny thing to sort of talk about, you know, because it's involved with the Kardashians. We all know that they're the picturesque American family, Armenian American family. The wordage that they use on the site, very accepting. It's cool, man. It makes me want to go join. You guys like a good mess? Me too. Look at all these cans of Dr. Pepper on the desk that I've had set up for 3 days, okay? I've been struggling. This is a church that the Kardashians are directly involved with, and all this awesome aerial drone footage and just scenic stuff would make you believe that this thing is huge. It's one of these fucking Taj Mahals they have built down here in Texas. There are the biggest churches in the entire world. Impenetrable castles of faith and fortune. Not this one. This looks like a fucking ramen shop, okay? Like just a regular small ass place in a strip mall. It's a really small church. I don't even know how you can fit people in this. This is like a yoga spot right next to the School of Rock. You got a store that sells running shoes on one side and a place where you can take music lessons from Jack Black. And then of course, a place to worship the Holy Lord. Or evade taxes. I don't know though.
Televangelist Jesse Duplantis says God himself told him it's time for an upgrade.
He said, I want you to believe me for a Falcon 7X. So I said, okay.
A Falcon 7 jet like this one to preach to more people around the world. And he's asking his followers for the $54 million.
Something's going on here for sure though. That's a little tiny ass building for such a large, awesome church with so many large and in charge folk involved in it, guys. If I had a church, it'd be f***ing bigger than that. So the church is a public business, so it has Google reviews, as every public place kind of has, and the local reception of the church is not that high.
You know, I got into reffing for the excitement.
He's going for the chair.
Turns out wrestling is completely scripted. But you know what's exciting and unscripted? PlayAlberta.ca with an all-new sportsbook, odds boost, and betting on any game.
PlayAlberta.ca. Go all in on excitement. Sign up today with promo code SPORT75 and get a $75 free bet. Official gaming partner of the Calgary Flames and Edmonton Oilers. Remember, if you gamble, use your game sense.
They have 89 reviews, and a majority of them are one-star reviews, and it's 2.8 out of 5. That's the current rating. Some of the top reviews are very suspicious and seem like they may not be real. Have been several times and enjoyed the people, music, and service. And ramen. My family has had nothing but an enriching experience here. Thank you, guy with a headshot. It's weird to me that the reviews that are showed by Google are the ones suggesting a positive experience when a majority of the reviews are incredibly negative. This type of shit always just makes it seem like it's bought and paid for and it's fake and not real, and it makes me just laugh hysterically. Belly laugh. Or whatever, you know. Frankie, you gonna bark at me, huh? You not riled up today, huh? Good girl. Good girl. Stay.
Sweet baby.
Now to the negative reviews, the majority, the lion's share. There are a lot of commonalities between these negative reviews, and several of them mention money, price, fee, tithe. Tithings. It's basically like a Netflix subscription for God and faith. Seems odd to me for all these to mention that, especially in a little shitty fucking strip mall church. Allegedly, and by allegedly I mean according to reviews, public reviews on Google. response from the owner. I think this is Kim Kardashian. I'm not sure.
The rumor about California Community Church charging $1,000 for membership is untruthful. It pops up on the internet from time to time, but like all registered religious nonprofit, the church is entirely funded by voluntary donations.
Oh, in that case, guess the video's over. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding, guys. There's more to it. So we have successfully dispelled the notion that there is anything bizarre going on behind the scenes within this awesome California church, guys. Thank the Lord. But there is actually a positive review that digs a bit of a deeper hole, like a hole digger would dig. You know those people who dig holes?
This is day 15 of digging a hole. We hit $1 million of fillable gasoline to light it on fire.
I see so many negative reviews here, and the majority of the negative reviews are from people who have never walked through the door. I, on the other hand, they are judging a church they've never stepped foot in based on rumors that they have heard. These aren't members who have actually been charged a membership fee. It's trolls spreading a negative rumor that actual members say is absolutely false and hyper. I believe this is judgmental and hypocritical to say the least. And the Lord will strike you down! I'm giving some creative liberties. Frankie, stop. Seriously. You need to stop it. I don't know, like, the thing is not funny anymore. Yelling at you is not funny. They don't like it. They don't think it's funny. You love it. Seems like. But I don't.
Yeah, you're right.
He is silent. And another thing, I don't believe most of them have ever been a member of a church. Obviously, if they ever had, they would know that a 10% tithe on your earnings is standard at every church for members. A lot of churches even require you to show your tax return when you join so they know you're tithing your 10% and they can also depend on that money as future revenue for church and local activities. It would be abnormal for a church to not expect 10% tithe from a member. What the if I go to in church and it asks for my tax returns, I'm gonna say, you, blue helmet, fucking glowy feds. What is this shit? We got rid of this in the 1700s with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and separation of church and state. I'm just kidding. I just started extremely French though. Extremely revolutionary. I don't know what. Wrong with me. I started literally screaming and then building a guillotine. It's crazy. Tithing advocates encourage believers to continue giving at 10% even when in debt. No, dude, don't do that. That's fucking insane.
All you've got is $1,000. Listen, that's not enough money anyway to buy the house. You're trying to get in the apartment. You're trying to buy the house. That's not enough money anyway. You get to that phone and you put that seed in the ground and watch God work it out.
The argument is, sow your money in the ground and you will reap returns multiple times over.
Seems like this guy's been drinking that Flavor Aid. Okay, Kim Jong even refers to it as revenue. It's a church. It's a church. What? I'm so ignorant to this. I never grew up thinking, oh yeah, churches are just businesses and alternate forms of government for people. What? You're supposed to go and worship and have a sense of community. Not just get taxed again for the fucking 15th time. Maybe I'm crazy to think that that's absolutely insane. So now the rabbit hole progresses even deeper to the church's lead pastor. I have nothing against this guy. Everything we're going to talk about here is very sensitive, I will say. I'm just trying to understand exactly what's going on. When I see a bunch of incredibly rich people in California who have a church in a strip mall, and in some of the reviews it says that they are forced to pay a 10% tithing, and like it's a strip mall church, not that hard to upkeep a strip mall church, and it's like $1,000 a month thing. It's very bizarre. It makes me want to look at it. Okay, so we're going to continue to look at it. The lead pastor on the website is a fella named Brad. He's our pastor, Brad Johnson. He looks like a nice guy. I like his hairdo. It's chicken-esque. It reminds me of a chicken. Part of this man's bio states that he served at the fastest growing and largest congregations around. He's got a long track record of being a shepherd for the people, getting all these poor lost souls into a strip mall and teaching them the word of God at the behest of Kardashian. It also claims in his bio that he's literally been at rock bottom. And it's hard for me to read that and not like smile because I'm an evil, horrible person and I just imagine that looks really bad, and it actually is very bad, and we'll get into it. And I characters and plot lines and themes. And also, just to circle back a little bit about leading the greatest, fastest growing congregations of all time, why at the strip mall church? Money! That's not cool. That's like not even a Chili's church.
You see my purse?
Yeah.
Got me some first.
Oh, congrats on being first at Chili's.
I don't appreciate your sarcasm.
What are you doing?
Brad is a man with some fucking demons, I gotta say. Like some real hardcore shit. And it raises the question of this, is this the man who is to be leading the congregation? Especially the strip mall congregation? I don't honestly know. Some reporting on Mr. Brad Johnson that was done by Radar Online from just over a decade ago tells us a lot about his character and some of his actions, especially as they relate to being a pastor for a church. Wow. Radar Online also says quite literally that momager Kris Jenner handpicked this goofy bastard to run their new church. Kris Jenner, by the way, James Charles, they're becoming the exact same person, and I'm here for it. I saw Jesus on the hill the other day. Brad led another church with 4,000 members called the Cavalry Community Church, just before admitting to cheating on his wife of 27 years back in 2007. Why do churches have CCC as their abbreviations all the time? Is that like a thing? Is that like some kind of dog whistle? I'm learning a lot about dog whistles lately. Apparently I give a lot of them. Apparently I give a lot of dog whistles, especially ableist dog whistles. Brad apparently admitted to this cheating scandal and apologized in a blog post, but it's a decade old, so, you know, I couldn't really find any such sources, but I'll do a reenactment. When I was a young man, I cheated on my wife repeatedly. The Holy Lord was working through me in mysterious ways. Ow! Now, I'm inclined to believe the accuracy of this reporting, judging by the fact that the article has been around for so long and just, you know, get sued for defamation or whatever. I don't want to say things that aren't true, by the way. That's not my goal. I want to report on things that are interesting that I see online. I don't want to defame anyone or say shit that's untrue. So, as far as I'm aware, this is legitimate. According to Radar Online, is it convicted in a court case? No. It's like you can't, it's just hearsay, obviously, at the end of the day, so important. Alleged. So this fella allegedly admitted to cheating on his wife in a very 2010s way of apologizing through a blog post. All this is nearly a decade old, so we don't really know. The reporting on events is so old, the sources are hard to find. We couldn't really find anything, so I assume Radar Online's article is still up, which means it's legit. But also, 100% it's alleged. I don't, you know, and really not that big of a deal, to be honest. Like, you can cheat on your wife for 27 years if you want. Just, I won't go to your church. Following the scandal, as you can imagine, the flock of the Cavalry Community Church was upset because they felt they had been defrauded or misguided by a massive fucking hypocrite. His action created a tremendous amount of resentment and hurt. Parishioner Robert Macarelli said, leadership has a high.
Only the PC Money account rewarded me for the banking and spending I already do.
Colin, it's a huge deal. That's true, dude. Yeah, you can't be a I was gonna say a congressman and do shit like that. You can. This guy's better suited for that than to be a pastor or whatever. So, after admitting to all this shit and losing his job with the Cavalry Community Church, things would get much worse for this guy, and I'm inclined to believe it, once again, because the fucking article still exists, and in the bio of the Kardashian Church, it says that this dude hit rock bottom, and by God, we ain't quite at rock bottom yet. 27 years, it's gotta get a lot worse. The article details that this man had 3 S-word attempts, which is fucking horrible. The Radar Online article really goes into extreme detail here. I don't really want to talk about this part. It does get a lot worse. The guy obviously was dealing with a substantial amount of guilt if all this alleged nonsense is to be true. He didn't seem to like himself very much, and he tried very hard to get rid of himself. Being this pimpin' ass pastor for a flock of 4,000 it's gotta be terrible to go from that to someone who just cheats on their wife and then has everything stolen from them. Rightfully so. I mean, so this all absolutely makes sense. He apparently freely admitted this as well, according to Radar Online. I can't really find him freely admitting it, though. Big ass scandal makes it hard to be a pastor that people are going to take seriously, especially when your flock is accusing you of defrauding them for being a big and giant fat hypocrite. Brad would seemingly claim that he would never lead a congregation again. That is, until Jesus came down Starbucks barista position, and that's not good. That's all following his fall from grace, like the movie Click, when you hit the fast forward and you suddenly are donning a green apron. You know it cannot be good. God, I would rather be a pastor than a Starbucks barista.
How much money did you pay for Tyler Perry's Gulfstream jet, for example?
Well, for example, that's really none of your business. But,
Isn't it the business of your donors?
listen, I paid.
I'm just kidding, by the way. I mean, I absolutely would rather be a pastor than a Starbucks barista, but that's just because I'm lactose intolerant. And I wouldn't make it. I wouldn't make it. I was being facetious. So, I think being a barista is pretty chill. This little Starbucks fact was reported by Radar Online and The Guardian simultaneously. Instead, he began working at a local Starbucks until the day Chris and Bruce Jenner tracked him down and convinced him to head their church. It was then called the Life Change Community Church. Brad even officiated the legendary wedding of Chloe and Lamar Odom. Oh my God!
I, Lamar,
Lamar,
give you this ring.
give you this ring.
What a f***ing legend. This is 2 years after all this scandal came out. That was in 2009. Another article reports something a bit conflicting and says that he was a salesman selling electric signs and not a Starbucks barista. The only mention of Starbucks in this article is him saying that he would work there if he had to, which, I think we all would. Am I right, fellow people who love working? I would love to work at Starbucks. Seemed like the guy just wanted to be a pastor really badly again, and Chris Jenner, for some reason, really also wanted him to be a pastor for the Life Change Community Church, which eventually became what we know it today as the greatest strip mall church of all time. One little interesting thing, if you go to this article where he's sort of talking about peddling electric signs and working at Starbucks if he has to, they talk about the online faith community that he is now involved in, which is the Kardashian Church. And they say donations are requested on the site with requests for monthly gifts for as much as $1,000 over the first year from people classified as ministry partners. Ministry partners. Interesting. Conspiracy shout out, rabbit hole conspiracy shout out. Yeah! So this great business endeavor was originally titled the Life Change Community Church, but was renamed to the California Community Church. For some reason, I don't know, maybe some negative connotation associated with the name. I don't really know, guys. Needless to say, for some reason we still have not figured out the Brad Johnson fellow that we've been explaining here as the perfect man to position at the head of the church. I guess it makes sense. Life change, you can turn your life around when you give up all for God. He had his world turned upside down. It sort of makes sense. If you show the congregation you can do it, then he can.
Rough skin, discoloration, bumpy skin, meet Aveeno Tone and Texture for smoother skin in just one use.
Do it. I can do it. You can do it and stuff. Now, lead pastor Brad Johnson is just a small sprinkle on the shit cupcake that we're covering in today's video, guys. It's far from the meaty, juicy, hot, steamy center. Why do the Kardashians and Jenners need to have their own f***ing church?
Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
Why does anybody need to have their own f***ing church? It seems like people who are very public figures who have their own f***ing churches.
You know, if you're an intellectual, you'll probably end up in hell for it.
Are
I'll say it. So do you make any apologies for your grand piano?
I really don't. Hopefully, we just feel like this is God's blessings.
not that nice. I will first begin this section by asking you guys, hey, this might not be a big deal. Maybe these people are just religious people. Everyone has the right to practice whatever religion they want in the beautiful United States of America. There can't be any other reasons to start a church other than that, right? Well, maybe. What if there was hypothetically? Let's go hypothetical here. All right, me and you. Hypothetical. Keep with me. Keep with me. Let's say hypothetically that there were monetary, materialistic reasons to found a church and reasons beyond just the love of your faith. Let's hypothetically say that, and let's do a little bit of broad speculation here. I'm excited. So, we are not the only ones who have done some speculation here. There have been many publications pontificating the possibility that this church was made solely for the financial benefit of the Jenners and Kardashians. Now, I'm inclined did require $1,000 a month ministry partner membership Netflix fee, as well as a 10% yearly income profit share in tithing in an area this affluent, the Bungo Hills or whatever this place is called, it would surely be raking in the biggest of all buku bucks. I think, at least. I mean, there's so many rich people in California, it's crazy. Yeah, they're not spending that much, obviously. So, like, you know, in strip mall, what's the rent there? $4,000 a month max. It can't be any more than that. Now, on top of that, according to the IRS, churches and religious organizations are mostly tax exempt, which is just not. I mean, it makes sense for like a small local church, but when churches become gigantic businesses and conglomerates, let's not do that. IRS, how about instead of making, well, make me pay taxes, I'll pay taxes. How about instead of making my parents pay taxes, who are just regular ass, not middle class people at all, who are self-employed, who essentially pay 50% of all the money that they make to the IRS through some, you know, sales tax, property tax. It just boils down, right? Not because of their tax bracket. How about instead of making those things, these massive organizations that are making people at the top incredibly religious, how about instead of making those things tax exempt, you just make people who actually contribute to society on a meaningful level, not even tax exempt, but just more reasonably taxed? How about that, IRS? I know you're watching, by the way. Also, another little idea for the IRS, instead of expanding your organization to allow gun-carrying agents in all 50 states to essentially force us at gunpoint to pay our taxes, how about you just tell us how much money we owe each year, instead of having TurboTax do it, or a CPA. Tell us how much money we owe, and then we'll tell you how much money we spend. Don't you? I promise I'm honest. More honest than this fucking church. Back to the Kardashian church. Seems like they didn't exactly realize that churches aren't entirely tax-free or tax-exempt, and when you run payroll for a church, you still have to pay payroll taxes because you're like, there's got to be some little, you know, thing preventing it from going wildly out of control. They didn't realize this. The Kardashian church didn't realize this, and it resulted in them being hit with tax liens in 2012 for failure to pay payroll taxes. Interesting. So they were just like, yeah, we don't gotta pay any taxes. It's ballers. It's sick. Come on, Brad. Come on, man. Donations to churches are also tax deductible. If you give your money to a church or a nonprofit, that money is no longer accumulated in your tax bill at the end of the year. So maybe if the Kardashians or someone else who is rich were to donate money to the church or pay the 10% rev tithings, they might be able to reduce their taxable income by leaving that money in a nonprofit or paying out like a smaller percentage over time through payroll or whatever, or distributions. I'm not exactly sure how nonprofits work. Nonprofits are widely manipulated. I'll just say that. Hey man, at least the money's going to the church and not anybody like Kim Kardashian or Kris Jenner or whatever. At least it's being used for a good cause in a strip mall. We don't know 100% if it's a giant fucking massive religious scam like Scientology or any of this other nonsense.
Frozen alien bodies were loaded onto Xenu's galactic cruisers, which looked like DC-8s, except with rocket engines. The cruisers then took the frozen alien bodies to our planet, Earth.
But we do 100% know, beyond a reasonable doubt, allegedly, that the Jenners and Kardashians are taking advantage of this situation. In an interview with Piers Morgan, we find out a bit more. I can't find the footage for it, only reports of it. Piers asked Kim and Courtney how much money they donate to their fucking mom's church, and they say 10%. 10% of our income is donated to mommy church. We go, it's awesome, it's so cool. Does your mom have a church that you can donate 10% of your income to?
judge on America's Got Talent, obviously. If you were to come on and I was to ask you, honestly, what is your talent? Would you have any?
I would absolutely say that marketing is a skill.
That's not a skill, though. That's a fucking trait from the devil himself.
And I think that, um, fashion as well. I mean, we each sister have been stylists at some point in our lives.
Also completely meaningless. Just kidding. It's kind of cool sometimes, but
We are smart enough to understand that having a TV show and a successful reality show is just a platform to where people can kind of, get to know us on a personal level, see us. But for us, we've always been about the business.
And also, our dad helped exonerate OJ, and then he died from what people call karma or something. I don't know what that is.
So we've always known that a fragrance and a shoe line and a clothing line at Sears and everything that we're doing now is always what we wanted to do.
Dude, I fucking cannot stand this. This literally makes me turn into a wild Appenheimer. I turn into a wild ape when I see people talking like this. They just, and you, dude, they're billionaires. You're a billionaire from this? How? Marketing? Fashion? That's not how. You can't do that. You can't just say marketing and fashion. There's something going on here. Some force, some power it be. Something's not good about this stuff. Go fucking crazy. But don't worry, guys. It's fine because all the money that Kim Kardashian made from selling shit on eBay for her charity auctions, don't worry. The proceeds of that were sent to a good cause. Oh wait, actually they were donated to her mom's church, and it is not known which efforts those donations funded. Oh gosh, that's awesome. Sorry, not all the proceeds, but $21,000 in 2014, $44,000 in 2013, and $20,000 in 2012. So not all the proceeds, but like some of them. Dude, I want to fucking make a church. How do I just make a fucking church? This sounds awesome.
I'm Dustin Stearns from Lifebridge Church in Tacoma, Washington, and online. And let's talk about 5 steps God can help you do to reach new people in your area through starting a mission-oriented church.
Oh, I feel like I'm a better person than these fucking freaks. So, is it all a scheme? What do you guys think down below? Do you think that these people are taking advantage of a system? Once again, they're in the club that we're not a part of. I will say, if it's not a scheme, that the fact that the billionaire Kardashians and Jenners being benefactors of this operation, and they continue to operate out of a strip mall with the smallest auditorium humanly possible, seems bizarre. Seems very bizarre. Plus, their give page is very enticing and makes me want to donate. It's like a fucking Apple store. Who's this guy? I love people that look like this. I've never seen anyone who looks like this in person. I will say this is much less evil than them given ones where you pay them money and then they say that they'll pray for you. That's nonsensical. John Oliver did an expose on a church that did that. That was scary.
They preach something called the prosperity gospel, which argues that wealth is a sign of God's favor and donations will result in wealth coming back to you. That idea sometimes takes the form of seed faith, the notion that donations are seeds that you will one day get to harvest.
But they do make it easy for you to pay in any way you want. You can pay in person, you can mail a donation, or you can use their app. You can connect your Apple ID and use Apple Vision Pro. Sink. I just sent money to Kris Jenner's mom's church. I mean, Kim Kardashian's mom's church. I feel good about myself, to be honest, today especially. I especially like this part of their giving page, which is reminiscent of the pure evil in Pay for Pray that John Oliver covered.
All of this would be amusing if the targets of these messages were not often vulnerable people like Bonnie Parker. She did not seek medical treatment for cancer, instead choosing to sow money into Kenneth Copeland's church.
When you reach the place where you believe God is wise and believe God is trustworthy, you'll naturally want to give back to Him. When you're ready, we encourage you to start giving faithfully and watch what He does in and through your life. You won't be disappointed. So give go worship the holiness himself there at their little strip mall. Oh wait, guys, they don't go there. They actually go to the f***ing cringe Hillsong, whatever rich people church thing, in Eyes Wide Shut, Illuminati church. That's what they go to.
This is the story you haven't. Bush. Smooth taste. Great value. As a new generation of victims speak out.
I was 13.
Wow.
Damn, this is getting hard to defend. Being non-biased is really exhausting. When Kim and Kanye were together, they would go to his Sunday services, which is way more baller than the California, whatever they had rotating venues there. She also had her children baptized in Armenia, which wasn't even stateside, obviously, and that's like the first Christian nation, so that's like the ultimate dupe area to do that, I think. Wow. I love Assassin's Creed. Kendall and Kylie go to the A-list Hillsong Church in New York City, which is a controversial church as well.
Hillsong is the homegrown Australian megachurch that became an international sensation. But now its celebrity founder, Pastor Brian Houston, is mired in scandal, facing criminal charges in Australia and the US.
You can't combine fame and entertainment and money and influence with churches, dude. It doesn't work out. It f***ing never works out. Same shit with government. It doesn't work out. What is wrong with you people? Why is this a thing? Unless you just want a lot of money and fame and influence and no tax in burden, why are you doing it? What are you doing? It's for the Lord. Well, then explain this thumbnail. All right, corrupt celebrity pastor. So at the very least, we know Kim and Courtney are giving 10% of their money from a 13-year-old Piers Morgan interview. So maybe they're not anymore, but they're giving 10% of their money. They're f***ing billionaires. That's like a lot of money every single year. That is then tax exempt by giving it to their mom's church, and they don't even f***ing go there. That seems bizarre. That seems very bizarre. The Lord does work in mysterious ways, though. Maybe it's because it's just too small and their huge badonks don't fit, guys. I would say donate more money and build an actual church with an actual congregation if you really want people to believe what you're doing is a genuine thing. If you're taking money and you're begging for donations and gifts, shut the f*** up. I don't want to talk to you, okay? I don't want to talk to you. My mom. Just kidding, that was an alarm. Shoo. I don't have a relationship with my mom like Kim and Courtney, alright? My mom doesn't even have a fucking church I can take advantage of. Use your $1 billion and make a better church if you're actually worried about being a good Christian and not being seen as someone who's just taking the absolute most evil route known to man to save on f***ing taxes. Come on, y'all got plenty of f***ing money, especially if it's 10% tithings. If it's you just have Kim Kardashian giving 10% tithings, let's see how much money that is. How much money does Kim K make yearly? Between 50 and 80 million dollars. Let's say 50. So $5 million a year. Interesting. And it's been around since 2009, 10. So say it's been around for 10 years. You've made $50 million in 10 years from just Kim and her tithings, according to what Kim said in a Piers Morgan interview. So they at least have $50 million. They had $50 million at some point. Interesting. Now, I know property is expensive in Gourd Hills, California, but it's not that expensive. It's not that expensive. This family, though, is no stranger to shady dealings and being in weird ass, they're different than us. They're not normal. They're crazy. They're evil and freaks. It's demonic. Not really, or something. Maybe it is demonic. I'm not sure. One time, though, Kim Kardashian, little fun fact here. Kim Kardashian flew home from Las Vegas with a trash bag full of $250,000 after playing a card game with a disgraced billionaire accused of a $4.5 billion economic development fund money laundering scam in Malaysia.
He's one of the most wanted men on the planet.
A playboy, a con man.
Accused of masterminding the world's biggest heist.
A $4.5 billion fraud.
Stolen from Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund, 1MDB.
Interesting. Dude is quite literally a fugitive. And, I'm not saying she had anything to do with that, but just having a trash bag full of $250 Wow. Emacs. She shilled this shit called Emacs, aka Ethereum Max, to her 225 million followers, saying that her friends told her about it. Her awesome friends, and the SEC charged her for that, which is pretty baller, dude. She didn't get charged for it being a pump and dump or anything like that, which it was, by the way. She was charged for not disclosing that she was paid $250,000 outside of a little ad thing at the bottom of her post. So, pretty epic, yeah. Quite a safe thing to invest in, guys. It will eventually go to the moon. It will eventually go to the moon. I believe in Chris. Anything she says is a good investment that her friends told her about. Her friends being the people that also utilize a church as a tax shelter. I will absolutely invest in anything. She settled her SEC charges by paying $1.26 million in penalties, by the way. Wow. Huge W. Are you guys in agreement? No, this is not my light, but hearing what my friend told me about the Ethereum Max million. I'm human to go Ethereum Max ran 400 trillion million. Literally 50% of their admin wallet giving back to the entire Emacs community. Dude, shut the f up. Alright? Shut the f up. I don't like you. I apologize for the polemic. I get a little rambunctious when talking about f***ing irredeemable, airheaded freaks. So, it seems as though this is one of the most successful grifts, part of the American dream. We love it, guys. Once you hit a certain point, you join a club, and then creating your own religion to save money is not creating your own religion, your own church, sorry. Religion would be way cooler, because that would require world building and lore, alright? That would be a lot more badass. Honestly, they should do that. They should really look into hiring some SAG writers from the Writers Guild, and then just, go down that rabbit hole. Now, will they ever face consequences for this? We don't know. Did they actually do anything wrong? I don't know. They definitely donate money to their mom's church, though, for sure. Maybe nothing bad will ever come out, aside from the tax lien in drama from a couple years ago. Maybe it's because of how much distance they've created between themselves and the church, or maybe it's God watching them because of how much money they're giving to the church, and that's like a direct representation of how much God loves you, is how much money you give to a church entity, a tax-free church entity. Now, anyways, how the they still have a fan base, that's even more of a mystery. That's even more of a rabbit hole. I do not understand why people think that they allow this. They get a lot of haters for sure, but I mean, this is just mind-boggling. Am I alone about that thought, or what, guys?
No, actually, this isn't burnout. I'm fine. This is fun. It's still enjoyable. I just recognize that it's my time to pass it on.
Hook, hypothesis, evidence, evidence, evidence.
Top or bottom, left or right.
Twist, conclusion.
Anyhow, revenue.
We lost over 250 grand.
Wow. I don't understand how you do that. What goes into a deal like this? Interest, taxes,
and...
Did you have that thought?
Oh, AI?
That's crazy.
Is there a moment where you're fully out? Today on the Colin and Sphere Show, we're joined by Matt, Pat, and Stephanie. They're the creators of Game Theory, Food Theory, Style Theory, Film Theory, and GT Live. And across those channels, they have over 41 million subscribers on YouTube. They started this journey over a decade ago when MatPat was uploading lo-fi video essays with his theories about video games. Fast forward to today, and they put out 11 videos a week, and MatPat is involved in every single one. Now, MatPat and Stephanie came on the show to talk about a first-of-its-kind moment that made waves across the platform. And in this conversation, we talked to MatPat and Stephanie about how they structured their company, how they sold the company, and how now they're retiring from YouTube while keeping their channels alive. Before we get into the conversation, we want to tell you about spending a week with Mr. Beast, Ryan Trahan, Eric, Dude Perfect, and a bunch of other top creators. There's a week-long event in Montana that we helped put together with our partners at Spotter, and it was the second annual Spotter Summit. We got to hear from experts like J.J. Abrams and Dr. Peter Attia, as well as just hang out with each other and spend time together. Now, one of the coolest parts of the event was the Spotter team demoing their new AI tools specifically designed to help creators brainstorm. All right, I'm going to show you how some of these tools work. This is Idea Generator. It's where you can take a title or a concept and get variations of that title and then actually get illustrated mock-ups of thumbnails that can give you an idea of how this video could come to life. You can also go straight to Thumbnail Explorer and just type in title ideas and see illustrated mock-ups for thumbnails. This really helps conceptualize your ideas and have a better understanding of what you would shoot or design for your packaging. And this is a tool I've been using a lot. It's called Idea Workshop. It's where you can put in an idea and actually build out the structure of a video from the storyline to the B-plot to the hook. So thanks to Spotter for sponsoring this episode. And if you want to check out the tools, go to spotter.com/Colin and Samir. All right, now for our conversation with Matt, Pat, and Stephanie. All right, Matt, Pat, and Stephanie. Pat?
Sorry, body, for replacing sunlight with blue light. But fear no more, body. Get Glow Recharged with vitamin C, a 3% brightening serum wash. For those who refuse to be dull, get Dove or get FOMO.
Wow. Oh man, we've already tapped into the main problem.
There's a lot of controversy about this. So I don't have a moniker like that. I don't have a short rhyming moniker, but some people who we know have actually just sort of given up and gone with Matt, Pat, and one time I've got Steph Pat. I've gotten all sorts of things. One time I got Pat, which I hate deeply, but I also leaned in on, and so in certain groups of people who we hang out with now, that is my name, unfortunately.
Pat.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Just in order to continue the cadence. Yeah.
No
yeah.
Steph.
No Steph. Unfortunately, no Steph. I don't get to keep like any, and Patrick obviously is not one of my original names.
Sure, of course.
Believe it or not, this is gonna come as a surprise.
My name wasn't originally
No
Patrick.
biological connection.
We're not siblings, as the internet also deeply suspects.
The internet suspects we're married. Yeah.
I think it's on
You're not?
Yeah.
Oh, but you're
We don't-
such a cute
I
couple.
think everyone thought we like slept in bunk beds in a single room.
Oh,
that's cute.
That makes sense.
No, they're spooning
you have like
together.
a
Nice vision.
You have
Yeah,
like
right.
a Jimmy Donaldson bunker somewhere, right? Where you guys you have your bunk beds and then you roll out into the rest of the office,
It's attached
right?
to this studio and we just come under the tunnel.
Exactly.
Elon Musk observes you from high,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
over your bed.
No, but I didn't get to keep it anyway. So it's just Pat. No, but that's Stephanie or Steph or any of those that you prefer. The internet has given me lots of funny monikers over the years.
Well, how are you guys doing? Because you are retired.
Not yet.
Okay, but you're close.
We're working on it. When does this episode air? Are we retired?
No,
Is that you retired?
You'll be close. Yeah.
Okay.
You'll be close, but there's also a potential someone's watching this and you're a year retired. Who knows?
Yeah, well, that's fair.
That's true.
Will you be almost retired? You're also like the conversation of YouTube at the moment.
Well, thank you.
Every day, at least in this moment, a new video comes out. It's like on YouTube retirement.
Yeah. No,
How wild
totally.
is that? That's super interesting, I think.
I think so to answer your first question, how's it feel? Great. It feels good at this point as we're filming it to be in an end game and to see an end in sight. One that's been a long time coming and one that we've been prepping for years at this point. So there's a sense of freedom to that, but also, like I said, it's not the end by any means. We are still working behind the scenes. We're still working on a lot of really exciting projects that are for our audience and for the fan base, and it's a new opportunity to learn. And I think that's the biggest thing about all of this is we're excited to open the door to new projects that get us learning again. We've been in YouTube doing videos for the last 13 years, and we know it really well. We know the algorithms, we know optimization, our audience. We've covered every IP under the sun, and it's
like a new day.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool because it's a new day.
Like the emotion is relatable, but the experience is very rare.
Yeah.
We don't know many stories, if at all, of creators who sell their channels completely, 100%.
Yep, 100%.
And then come up with a way to get off the channel. Like the core, you know what I mean? Like the core motto of YouTube is like broadcast yourself.
Yeah, right.
Inherently, it's not scalable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it is tricky, right? And that goes to probably a whole nother conversation, which is how the channel operates.
Yeah.
Right. And the way that we've always seen the channel operating, where we've always seen it as there being three hooks in the wall, right? There are people who watch our channel because they like me as Matt Pat. They like me as a host. He's funny, he's wacky, he's relatable, whatever. Then there's the other hook in the wall of they like the format. They like the show of theory.
They like the predictability of,
opening line, hook, hypothesis, evidence, 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 twist, conclusion. That is every single episode. It's extremely predictable. Every single time it has the exact same format. It's comforting. It's a lot of people's like comfort content as well. It's reliable. It's produced every single week with no breaks for the last decade. So you can always count on it being there, right? So there's the format. And then like there's one other
and then the third one is the IP that we're talking about, or the subject matter that we're talking about, right? Like people who might not know what theorizing is, or might not know kind of the structure, they don't know who I am, but are interested in this topic, right? Like I wore edible underwear, and what's that like? Or let's talk about Lethal Company, the video game.
They're really big fans of Gravity Falls, the animated show from Disney, you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, I just love this IP, I remember this IP, or I want to know more about this IP, let me watch this particular episode. And so they're sort of, you know, these sort of revolving door viewers who are there for the episodes that they're really interested in. Maybe they duck out for a few, maybe they're back for some, you know, that kind of thing. And there's always something to sort of bring people back, no matter what reason they're coming in for.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about it, right? Is that idea of, yes, one of those hooks goes away with our departure, but the other two hooks remain and hopefully sustain and continue. Well, a new hook kind of finds its footing and finds their audience and finds their unique voice within the format, and it grows from there.
Do you have the inverse hook personally? Like your days for a large portion of your life have been anchored by your connection to this audience.
Sure.
And I thought about that while watching your goodbye video. 18 million people on this day have watched that, and it'll be more over the next week or so. Like there is an inverse to being a YouTuber that actually we talked about with Brittany Broski, and I think Hank Green did an episode on that, calling it the Sarah-Poshal relationship, like the opposite, right?
Yeah.
The inverse of the parasocial relationship. That like you've been hooked into them.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. And I
You
think
can't not be.
You
Like,
can't not be.
there's no way. I don't think there's any way to work on the platform and not be.
Right. Well, and that's that's why that announcement video and this decision is so hard.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm crying so much throughout that announcement video. To be honest, right? Like so
much.
so
That
much
was the
crying.
third time he tried to record that video as well, and that was probably the least tears. The first
It was
one
pretty
was
wet,
just
sloppy.
whoa.
It was pretty wet, sloppy for sure.
Honestly, though, good looking cry. Because as I watched that, I was like, I don't think I can cry like this. I cry.
It's not bad.
My eyes get all
I'm
puffy, my face turns
There's
red.
a lot of snot when
No
I
one
cry.
wants to smile.
And a lot of like, you know, like a lot of stuttering.
I do have very narrow nasal cavities, so that's probably why the
There's
snot doesn't
nothing
flow.
that goes in or out in there at all.
Yeah, I've been primed for that for years.
That's a requirement for retiring.
Yeah. Just make sure
narrow nasal.
you have you know, what is it, the deviated septum, so that nothing goes through your nasal cavities
Oh,
at all, and you're great. Yeah. He
I do
doesn't
feel
have
like
any snot problems.
you introduced like there is the classic YouTuber apology video.
Yeah.
But you introduced now probably the model for the retirement video. You know?
Thank you.
Like, oh, that's what it looks like when you. I mean, it was also odd that it was a week of announcements, right?
Yeah.
Is that just turn of the year? Like, did you talk to Tom Scott? And
We're like, let's start a super trend on YouTube. Let's do this.
Matt Diavella,
I'm actually glad that you said that it set the bar, because we were very worried after the Tom Scott video. We were like,
right.
Tom
Scott,
bar
yeah,
is so high.
Yeah, hot air balloon.
Right.
Helicopter, whatever it was, like floating off into the
How do you
sunset.
follow that? We had a conversation that
With
night.
tears.
We were like, oh
Yeah.
shoot.
Like,
Like, what are we
you
doing?
can only follow it with tears.
With sincerity and love. Thank you. No, we were a little bit worried that like, oh man, are people gonna think that this decision is coming because someone else did it? And it's like, no, like this has been years
I
in
can
the
vouch
making.
because we talked about it. Yeah.
Right, we've talked about it
for
for a long time, and I mean, we did a speech about how to exit YouTube back in 2019.
Yeah, no one knows this, but we did a keynote on the VidCon industry stage back in 2019, which was the first time we were thinking about this. Like, this is how far back this just discussion goes. Not even like necessarily actions around it, but our son was born in 2018, and in 2019 we were like, what are we gonna do long term? Like, what? Really. And I'm sure you guys have had that. You have families. You've talked about this, right? Somewhere behind the scenes, you've talked about.
Sure.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna be doing in 10 years? Like, how is this story gonna unfold for you? And that's when we first started thinking about it, really. And in 2019, we gave this keynote at VidCon about like, okay, these are the ways that YouTubers can exit, and they're exactly the same ways that we talked about literally last week. They can kind of just like fizzle out on the platform. You get to the point where you don't need to do it anymore or whatever, but you just kind of keep doing it, and your fan base kind of slowly whittles away. Not any fault of your own, just nothing stays popular forever, right? You can sell your business, or you can just decide one day that you're going to stop uploading, right? And in order to know how you're going to exit, our whole point back in 2019 was that as you are building a YouTube channel, and that was what everyone was interested in. No one wanted to come to a VidCon presentation about exiting YouTube in 2019, but our whole point was, as you are building your channel, as you're building your creator business, you have to know where you're going in order to get there. You don't know if you've succeeded as a creator business if you don't know what the end goal is, right? What is the ending? And so you pick your ending, and then you write the story that you want to get there.
Yeah,
and that was the point.
And the way you structure your channel is going to fundamentally dictate what is and isn't available to you. I mean, your first question at the beginning of this was, not many people have been able to do this, and that's because these sorts of channels that we have are very rare. You can't have a Markiplier sell his channel or have someone step in as the next Markiplier. It is, it's the same thing with the Jenna Marbles. Ray William Johnson back in the day had =3, and that was
Probably
very
the same for us.
Yeah, very
We're a
much
channel
so.
called Colin and Samir.
Right, yeah, when it's tied to your name and personality, you can't do that. But
We
when
were
it's
just talking about how you guys you can't shave, you can't cut your hair, because then what happens to the logo,
Right,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone can feel, but we're in a prison right now.
I'm stuck like this.
Yeah, everyone can feel.
you don't get to choose your facial hair, right? But I want to choose my facial hair, right? And so it's one of those things where, we early on, because we're older than dirt, right? Like, we've been around for 13 years. We've been consulting YouTube channels and
When you
big
say
brands
that,
and
though,
stuff.
we're kind of in the same age
Oh, no,
category,
I-
so,
I-
so we have to say that now too.
Well, I own that I'm older than dirt. You don't have
You
to.
don't have to. You
I
guys
just
are so
accept it.
fresh-faced and
It's
beautiful.
right on my face, so it's what can you do? I got gray beard.
Right, but it's one of those things like, we've been thinking about and analyzing and consulting YouTube channels, brands, big businesses in the space for over a decade, right? And over-analyzing everything since our earliest videos. That is how this business has become what it was. And at a certain point early on, we recognized the value of having a format that's personality-driven. Because when you break down content, it's either a format or it's personality, and the personality gets audience loyalty. It's a hook in the wall. It's the thing that people relate to. I like that host. I like their style. But the format is the thing that gives longevity and can live on beyond that personality, right? And so in the earliest days of game theory, back when that was the only channel, it was pure format. I did not insert myself at all. Like, I was there and I was the host, but there weren't personal stories. I didn't appear on camera. There was nothing about me as a person. But then around the era of, like, what would it have been, generation 3 of YouTube, where you started to see the Let's Players taking off, and you saw the OG YouTubers really starting to grow things like that. I'm like, oh, but there's a secret sauce here about personality as well, and it's okay for me to insert myself into this, and it's okay for me to suddenly be a part of this narrative as well. Let's put those two things together and kind of grow as a unit.
I just, out of pure curiosity, when I watched your goodbye video, I thought, why not do like a voice clone?
Oh, AI?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
absolutely.
you have that thought of, like, keep MatPat's voice?
I mean,
because a large portion of the videos, you don't need to be on camera.
Right.
And it's like, when I thought about what's done really well, it is the research, the writing, the pacing. There's like a DNA that could be replicated.
Yeah, I'm the weakest part of the episode. I'm just garbage. Please, the formats will do better without me, to be honest. No, like there was thoughts. I mean, you think through all the different possibilities. I mean, Steph and I are, if not overthinkers. That kind of goes with the territory, right? Overanalyzers, looking at all the different kind of like long-term ramifications of things. But I mean, you don't. One of the big parts of this decision is not wanting to just become talent. And like every script I touch, and every script I approve, and every script I have polished to my voice and has passed a certain level of research that I understand and trust from our team. So that way it's not just me as a mouthpiece. And it's really important for me, and I think for online creators, but especially the Theorist brand, of like, hey, we are actual humans here, and we are doing this, and it is still us on the couch, and I'm representing this research that I have done, and I'm a trustworthy source to you, right? And one of the reasons why it's like, hey, it doesn't make sense for me to just stand here and speak the words of other people. It's like, that doesn't feel true. That doesn't feel authentic, right? It's such a buzzword in the YouTube space that's so played out. But channel and an online brand work. And so if my team is doing most of the research, and if Lee is doing all that film theory, and if Tom is doing all the game theory, and maybe he's helping supply with the style theory stuff, like, they should be the ones representing that at this point. Like, this is their show, and I'm just a filter for it. I'm just a front. And they deserve, and they've earned the right to step forward and kind of take that place for themselves.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any news anchors, right? Like, YouTube shouldn't be a place where there are news anchors and you're just getting fed lines or getting fed stuff off of a teleprompter. And that's one of the things that we've actually hammered home to them as well, because we have this, like, we have this like team that's much bigger than we could have ever imagined a team that we would have. And we have our creative directors who are like ready, they're like eager, they're like ready to step up to this plate. And behind them, we also have a support team of writers as well. And for a long time, we didn't have any of that, right? And so one of the things that we've also really instilled onto the creative directors is, hey, never lose your voice here. And we have a great team of writers, and they do excellent research. But that doesn't mean that whoever is speaking those words shouldn't have touched every script and have had their voice really come through. And so when we're talking to them about, sort of words of wisdom for as they go forward and they continue to become more and more autonomous in these roles, is don't lose yourself and don't compromise yourself and your voice, because that's what audiences respond to. They care that Lee loves guitar picks and collects them, and that Amy is like a D&D aficionado. Like, that's the kind of stuff that people latch onto. That's not something that some writer can just like put a generic joke in there for you. You have to be able to tell authentic stories about yourself, and that's what makes you a trustworthy person for everything else. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned before the what was it, the Arab social? What the reverse of parasocial?
Seroposal.
Seroposal. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, there
But
we
I mean,
go.
like, that is, again, would it be easy for me to just offload the responsibility to an AI voice, or let other people handle all that work? And do I get those hours of my life back? Yeah, but I have a responsibility to our audience to take care of them and to make sure that the content that they're being delivered is of a certain quality and is going to be entertaining and educational to them, and something that is made with love and fandom and support and enthusiasm. And that is a guiding ethos, and that's that reverse, that seroposal relationship with them. That's what I owe them, because they've trusted me with their view and with their support for all these years.
I mean, you guys have been on this platform for a long time, right? Retirement? Anytime? What are your thoughts? Can YouTubers retire, and will you do it?
So I have this thought all the time,
Yeah.
that when we sold our first channel, so we sold Little Cross Number, it was inside of another company. That was around the time where I started dating my current wife, and our relationship got to the point where we got engaged. And I don't think that would have been possible had we not sold the company. Meaning, like, my time and space,
Yep,
right? And
100%.
now, as I start thinking about building a family, the thought creeps in again of like, well, if I'm to be a dad, do I have the time and space for that? And this version of us on YouTube is very different from that version of us. That was like early days, couldn't figure it out, And now there's more stability. We have a team, we have a format. But that thought does come into my head for that reason. And then the other side is also the desire to produce other projects.
Yeah.
Like when you're making a YouTube channel, you are feeding the format, and you're all in on the format. And I feel so fortunate we have a format where I get to be myself and just sit and have a great conversation with interesting people.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a wild gift. But I have a lot of aspirations to produce other things.
Yeah.
So those are the two thoughts that come in my head. I don't anticipate it happening anytime soon, because this is very fun, and the reward is getting to sit across from people who inspire us. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
Oh, they're better.
Oh, they're next.
Sorry, they're coming in
okay,
next.
Okay, good.
I don't know. Do you think about it?
We will.
Yeah, of course. I think about it all the time. But in watching everyone's retirement videos, I felt a lot of fear of like, oh, I'm not ready to do that because I don't even know what's on the other end of that.
Oh, that's good. That tells you. I mean, that gives you your answer.
Yeah,
though. If you feel fear, then like the answer is
No,
for you.
I'm like
That's great.
happy, where we are, but I have, it would scare me to leave just from like a lifestyle perspective of like I don't know many other lifestyles. I don't
things we did.
Yeah.
There they are,
Uh-huh.
just like listed.
And they
Right.
do lead to really
And they've
weird,
led to interesting
bizarre,
things.
cool experiences.
Interesting.
But I do miss,
Experiences.
you know, there have been times when we've worked on things that are very finite. Like it's a project we work on for a period of time, we do it, it's over. I don't
Yeah.
think about it ever again.
Yeah.
And Hank Green said something in a video today about retirement. He said that creativity used to be delivered in discrete units of like, there's the song, there's the album, there's the movie.
Yeah.
And now he just sees it as this, especially with YouTube creators, it's just this long thing.
Yeah,
Like,
marathon.
he says even if someone says they retire, it's still going. It's still living on.
Right.
The
And
foundations
you
that
might
you
still
put
show
in
up.
place.
Sure,
You
every
might
once in
still
a while.
make a video.
It's still going.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think it leaves like it's such a cool platform because it leaves the door open for other projects. Just because you retire from one doesn't mean you have to retire from everything forever. He's retiring from the host of these channels. That's a very specific thing to retire from,
Yeah.
actually.
Have you heard Marquez's octopus
Yes.
analogy?
Yes.
I think his video was fantastic, and I love his octopus analogy.
Yeah.
That you're kind of like cutting off one
Right.
part of it.
Yeah.
You know? But I do think in this in this whole moment in time where these retirement videos came out, I started doing some writing around it, and I really did think about the fact that I think you do retire from being a creator the day you start building your media company.
Yeah.
Once you start hiring and scaling and starting to make the thing bigger than what it was to be a creator.
Yeah.
Because
you're not the creator anymore. You are the manager.
You're a
well, you
manager at that
added
Is that what
this
you mean?
job that is
Yes.
so different.
Yeah.
That comes with like the amount of stressors that it comes with as it gets bigger and bigger are so different from when we would come up with an idea and sit next to each other and I'd be like he would take a break from editing for a second, I'd hop in and put in a song.
Yep.
And I'd be like, oh, that song works really well. And
Right.
he'd come back and be like, dude, look at this song.
Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
my god,
yeah.
that song does work. Oh,
Yeah.
I got an idea. And he would sit down and that version of us.
Whoa, what are you listening to this for?
Wait, who's talking?
You know you're driving a 2024 Ford Escape with available Alexa built in, so you can change the music.
Oh yeah, Alexa, change station to 99.2.
See? Purchase a 2024 Escape ST Line all-wheel drive with Tech Pack at 3.49% APR for 72 months with down payment. That's just $267 bi-weekly. Cash value of $40,294. Plus, eligible Ford owners get a $1,000 bonus. For details, visit your local Ford store or Ford.ca.
We retired from that version of us.
Right.
That does not exist.
Oh,
Right.
I feel
Right.
that so much. Actually, I
Yeah.
feel that like in my stomach or something. I have memories of like Matthew and I in our first like 6 months of working full time together after we had quit our jobs and stuff, of like just sitting next to each other, like thinking up the tags for a video and like thinking up the title and like trying different stuff with the titles of videos and then just like being there together and hitting publish. And I'm like embarrassed to say how long ago that was. That was so long
And
ago that
refreshing
things were that
and seeing,
simple.
Like, dude, look at this comment. That's
Yeah.
coming in.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Or like, oh, like I can't believe like how much the Twitter has grown, or like of these live stream comments are crazy, and being that close to it is it's really awesome and special, and it feels much more simple, you know.
As part of this kind of final stretch of videos that we're doing right now, it's been really nice to have a chance to revisit a lot of those
come back to
moments.
me.
So, for that announcement video, I was digging through old emails with Lee and Ronnie and Ryder and some of our early editors on the channel and looking at like, yep, back before there was Framio and all these text solutions for notes, I literally would just write pages and pages of notes in the videos.
You say Framio?
I say Framio, and anyone who says
Frame.io.
Frame.io,
I
it
don't
makes
say
me so
the dot.
sad.
We
I
say
know.
frame. We just say frame.
Framio. Framio's the way to do it.
Framio?
I love Framio. It's so much better.
Framio,
Framio.
try it. Just
Try
try
it.
it.
Try it out.
I
Try it
don't.
out.
I don't
Where
even
do you
know.
upload your videos?
I
to
gotta be
get
honest.
notes?
I don't even know what the rest of the sentence was. I heard Framio, and I was like,
Same.
Did it feel good to say
I
Framio?
can't go any further
Here,
than
I
that.
was like, I'm so sorry. But
Anyone
It's
who
like
ever
easy. You
inherits-
get to a good point, but I need to stop you at Framio.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone who inherits an editor from us ever will get an editor who says Framio.
we will never.
We'll never hire.
Why?
We will never.
Yeah.
If it says Theorist Media,
Frame.io.
Missing out.
Frame.io.
Why? You're taking two. It's a poorly optimized phrase.
Okay,
What
this
did
is
they
so,
say?
This
What
is so
is
niche,
it
by
meant
the
to
way.
be?
What were you saying?
Framio like flows, right?
Right.
Frame.io is like 3 very distinct syllables, which are just not
Wait,
elegant.
please, what were you talking about?
Anyway,
please tell me what you were saying.
anyway, throughout this whole process and going back to that simplicity, right, of those early days, it's been so nice to revisit where we were writing emails, like literal emails back and forth of like, here are the 100 bullet points that I have for notes on all the different templates, because the technology didn't exist, right? Or even earlier this week, before we got here, we were in Texas filming with just like a skeleton crew of like some of our let's shoot some tanks and analyze like video game physics and do it that way. And it's been so nice to kind of take a week here and take some time away from being a manager, being in meetings, strategizing about business, business strategies and this and that.
That's still happening between 11 p.m. and
No, it still is, but it's
yeah.
been nice to afford myself that time and prioritize and get back to that. Because,
Those are
I
different-
missed this.
they're
I
different.
missed that.
They're different jobs.
Oh,
right?
very
And
much so,
like,
yes.
Colin and I, when we made that docu-piece on Mr. Beastburg,
Yeah.
we just flew to Jersey, just the two of us.
Yeah, that's great.
And we just held cameras, and it was this weird, like, oh my God, this is the thing we did.
Yeah.
We held cameras and we showed it, like, we'd go up to each other and show each other the shots we got, and we just, it's a very different job to be that person. And I think there are days where I think about, and even as I was hearing all these retirement videos, I was like, the thought that comes into my head is like, is there a day where I'll retire from being the head of this and move back into putting a camera in my hand and editing? And from the outside, someone who's not unfamiliar with our jobs would be like, that is, you are, you're making videos, what are you talking about? Or just grab a camera and go make some
Why
stuff.
not?
You know, it is,
about that. I'm like, I have cameras everywhere here.
Yeah, right.
Like,
You have more cameras than ever.
more cameras
and
than ever.
less time to use them.
Yeah, and
Right.
more editing software than ever, and computers, and like, just there was a time where it was just like Colin's laptop, and we were sitting,
Right.
you know, and,
Office.
and that's what I think is a big conversational point around retirement. Is what are we retiring from? You know, and what jobs did we pick up along the way that now we're trying to shed?
To impact out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. No, I think that's crucial. Like there's been so many moments where like we've just been so distracted by the many other responsibilities that we have that we can't justify doing the creative stuff. Like we can't justify spending the extra time to like just do something that's creatively satisfying because we're just so needed in so many other places. And figuring out fewer places to be needed, I think is really nice.
I want to ask you guys about 2018 because clearly, if you're giving a talk at VidCon a year later about exit strategies, outside of having a child, which is a huge life moment that will start making you think about the future.
Yeah.
What else went into that decision in 2018 to all of a sudden be like, oh, you know what? I think we want out, and this is going to take a while.
There are a few things that happened. One was that we had our son, which was a massive, momentous occasion, and that happened right in the beginning of the year. 4 days before we had our son, we lost one of our editors who unfortunately lost his life to suicide. And that was an incredibly tough blow on our team. And it happened, we found out about it literally like hours before we went into the hospital to have our son. And we were there, and 5 hours after delivery, we were both on an emergency phone call to our team to tell them that this had happened and to plan for what we were going to do next. And that was our experience at that moment. And so that was the middle of our year. And then obviously that has a huge impact. We wanted to make sure that our team was okay, that we were okay. And then following that, a few months later, we were with Defy, and that whole collapse of that organization happened, right? And we lost, a good couple $100,000 when that company went under. And it was like one thing happened after another that year to just like, it was like some sort of fate just like beating us over the head, being like, figure out what really matters here, figure out how to deal with stuff, and figure out like what you're going to prioritize in life. And I think that kicked off a lot of conversations that ultimately began out of these like really tough moments where, we were like, oh man, there's a lot going on right now that we are not happy with and that is a real big struggle. And it got us to set up priorities that have lasted and really taught us so many things coming into like the full 5 years that followed.
Well, I think all of those, like you said, it gets you to question what's important in life, right? And I think having a kid, having a family, it really gets you to recalibrate kind of what it means to spend your time.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that one of my catchphrases that I go around with, and in the wake of the retirement too, is one of these things like people ask like, what are you up to? What are you up to? What's next? What's next? And one of my first answers is always, I'm so excited just have friends who were friend employees. You know,
We hired all of our friends.
Yeah,
Like, let's
yeah,
be real
I
about
think
this.
all
Do
these
you have
YouTube
this
businesses,
experience?
right?
You
Like-
hired all of your friends. This is just
Actually,
us.
the first friend I hired was named Matt Pat, which is
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, there it is.
True. Which is crazy. He was.
It was me the whole time.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I remember when we learned of you. We were like,
Like,
wow,
we have
oh,
a
we
Matt
have a Matt Pat.
right. And there was another Matt Pat too,
Yeah,
out there, like early days gaming and stuff like that. But I mean, like that's one of the things. I love all the people that we are so fortunate to work with, and we work with so many talented people who have been there for years on this journey with us. You know, some of them 6, 7, 8 years, and a lot of them started as our friends. A lot of them became our friends along the way, and I am so eager to be able to dial back the workload and just be able to spend the time reconnecting with them. Same thing with my.
We've been terrible friends.
Yeah,
for, like,
we're
a decade.
worse, of course.
Absolutely the worst. We've had to like cancel a million phone calls with people. We've had to be like, I'm sorry, I can't. We're filming. I'm sorry, I can't. We're whatever. Like it's really hard, and we haven't been like, connected with our extended family. We haven't been connected with friends, and it's like, oh, these people still exist. And the miraculous thing is that they're still willing to be friends with us.
Right. Isn't that amazing?
And we're like, wow, that's what an incredible gift.
There's also though the dynamic of you guys as partners. Like you're probably going to experience each other differently, right?
Oh yeah,
I mean, like I could only
No.
assume
Who is-
because I find being like a YouTube creator and being a husband to be really challenging. Like those two things are I have to work hard at because the amount that I call it being like you're plugged into the matrix when you're on the internet, right? You're literally like
It's too easy to fill time
at all
data
times.
metrics and
Sure.
decisions and all types of things.
And
New
at all
ideas,
times,
new opportunities.
you exist on the internet at all times,
Yeah.
and you're plugged into what's happening in that space at all times, and what you could and couldn't be doing to change things, and it's an all-consuming thing, right?
Yeah.
So, a question for you then:
Mhm.
Do you try and strike like a work-life balance?
I think we've gotten better at it now. I think on the when you're trying to make it work, it's hard, and I imagine the early days they're all-consuming in a very different way than when it's working.
Yeah.
Right? And when it's not working, or even when it just starts to work, you're riddled with fear that it's about to go away, right? Or it's never going to happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a lot of the experience that we had of this anxiety of I think I can do this, but I don't know why it's not happening. So I think I need to do it all the time and just get as good as I can, which is not conducive to go hang out with a friend, on a Friday. To be honest, on a Friday or Saturday, it's hard to do. You just want to be working on the gym.
I do think one of the toughest things, and you mentioned this briefly, but is when it starts to pick up, and you're already exhausted because you've been through years worth of 7 days a week, really late hours, just trying to make it work, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's taken off, something's happening here. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. But I gotta keep pushing.
I remember that time. I think I said this to Colin, but I was like, it feels like we just punched our ticket to be in the race, but we've been running for years.
Yeah.
That's
and
a great
we
metaphor.
just got in, and now we have to try and win. And you're like, whoa,
Here we go now. Now it begins.
It's been 10 years, and now we're in the race,
right?
And everyone else is 21 and can dance.
Do the floss, yeah, it's impressive.
Oh no, I mean there's all of that, yes, and there's so much to talk about when it comes to this sort of this dance that you do and how much of a marathon all of being on this platform is, and how all consuming it is, right? And so I asked about your work-life balance because we gave up on that a long time ago. There is no work-life balance for us, and I think maybe for some people that is a great thing that you can strive for. For us, it was like a total fallacy. It was impossible to create a work-life balance where there was work and there was life. The only thing that works for us is a complete work-life integration, and it doesn't function. Literally, our lives absolutely fall apart if we don't work it that way. And so we do spend date nights talking about YouTube.
Of course.
And there are no working hours, there are no non-working hours, there's just when the work happens and when everything else happens, and sometimes they are so closely interconnected that it's impossible to tell which one you're actually doing, but that's the only way that we've been able to function as effectively as we have for as long as we have, and I think we're pretty proud of it, but it also
in the height of that, what was driving you guys? Like what do you feel like you were chasing? Because some of that stuff it is really hard, right? And after years and years, you examine your own life, and perceivably, you guys had, even at that time, have a level of financial success, right? Have a family. Like, what is driving you in that moment to keep pushing and put out that much content and work that hard?
Responsibility, right?
I don't.
I feel like that's it. I mean, you can weigh in. I'd be curious to get your
I feel
take.
like there's something. I feel like we should give a more concrete answer.
No.
Than this vague
No. It's so I can at least track it very clearly from era to era, right? In the earliest days, like Stephanie alluded to, it was to get me a job. Like I needed a way to prove to potential employers, like I'm smart, I can research, I can edit, hire me because I can use analytics to create a thing that people will enjoy watching, right? Early. I got that job, and so I figured, it's time to sunset the channel. Like, achievement unlocked, I did it, time to move on. But I am a notorious completionist kind of guy, and I really thrive off of trophies and things. And so I'm like, ooh, but I could get a play button, and it's gold, and that like symbolizes some level of achievement. And so I'm like, well, I'm gonna work until I get like 1 million subscribers, and then I got that, and I'm like, okay, well, achievement unlocked, did it, time to end the thing. But at the same time, the job that I got was consulting other YouTubers and teaching them how to read their analytics, how to optimize their audiences, how to work on the platform. And I had this amazing tool behind me that with the channel, that I could run all these experiments. For a long time, we had, back in the days of annotations, we had this thing called the Super Amazing End Card Tournament. And it was literally just me doing a bunch of experiments on the audience. And the audience was okay with this. Like, you all were fine. Like, they knew this, they embraced this, right? But it was me finding out all this data collection, figuring out things about, like, is the left side of the screen or the right side of the screen stronger, top or bottom, left or right, how many arrows in the description, what do they prefer, what colors do they prefer, what do they like to click on more.
We also used to ask big meta questions like, okay, YouTube audience of 2014, when was the last time you turned on a traditional TV show? When was the last time you watched linear television? What percentage of you watch sports? What percentage of you have seen X, Y, or Z movie? And so we got a really keen media read.
Put that in the comments, or do you guys use like polls?
A little bit of, I mean,
all of the above.
Yeah, all of the above.
Polls.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were fun.
They were great.
That was
People
cool.
love giving their opinion anonymously.
Polls were great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, YouTube loses all the cool features.
Yeah, right. But no, we tested out all of this stuff, right? And so there was a period of time, I think this was maybe before I got to the link, but like there was a period of time where doing those experiments and figuring out how to optimize things was something I was continuing to do because it was helping me with my job and be better as a consultant to everyone that we were working with at the time. And then on top of that, there was the point where it's like, well, at this point we have a large audience. I don't want to quit for them. Like I am responsible I have this relationship with them, and they've trusted me to follow me on this journey and give me this job and answer all these wacky questions and stuff. I want to be here for them, and I want to continue making it for them. And then lastly, that's been the driving force for a very long time. It continues to be like a heartbeat of everything. But I'd say the last layer comes in now with our own employees, right? Being business owners and making sure that we're setting up a responsible business for them.
Yeah, that's what I would say as well. I think it's the responsibility piece comes in with being responsible business people, not just responsible to ourselves. And along the way, our goals changed and stuff, right? Because there was one point in time where you talk about chasing the numbers and chasing the play buttons, and I think those are such amazing incentives, and they obviously drive massive motivation. But there was a point where we had to confront this idea of like, there are other channels that are going to grow faster. There are other channels that are going to have more numbers. Their numbers are going to be bigger than our numbers. And there was a very clear moment, and I think this was in maybe 2014 or something like that, when PewDiePie blew up, and we just watched him. We were here, and he was like, and he just took off, and we had to sit down and have a talk because Matthew was a bit depressed about it, and so
I'm like, I worked so hard and I'm so well optimized. Darn it.
And it's hard. It's hard to see. It's just hard to see all those moving pieces, right? And we had to have a conversation where we talked to each other about, are numbers the only thing that you're going to use to define yourself and define your success? If that's the case, that's crazy. Like, you can't define your success as a channel and your success as a human being by whose numbers are bigger. You're never going to win that contest. And if you do, what have you won? What have you actually won there? And there has to be some other metric that you can use to define success other than subscribership. And I think that was a turning point where it went from being about, okay, let's just try and get more play buttons, to no, let's try to build something that's interesting, build something that we're proud of, and then hopefully give it a life of its own.
So at what point in the journey did you examine yourself and go, there needs to be formulas for all of these to scale, or was that from just day one? Like the way you described the format of a theory video, you have that written down somewhere. There's some level of almost like a brand book or brand Bible of,
sure,
here's how you make one of our videos. We're gonna leave, but you guys can continue this. This is what makes a good video. This is what the brand's all about.
It's in the writer's training, whether they listen to us or not. It's just up to them.
Got it. Yeah. But was there a point where you thought we need to document this and we need to be able to instruct this? Because I find that to be, amongst creators, including ourselves, one of the make or breaks of if you can do this is if you can communicate to creative people your creative vision.
Is that on me?
You're the one who wrote the Bible, the brand Bible.
I did, but I think that you're building stuff and you don't know what you're doing, and so you build stuff as you go, and it wasn't, I wish I could be like, oh yeah, we were such geniuses that we had this master plan and we knew everything ahead of time and we were going to write it all down and it was so formulaic, so by the time we had an employee show up, guess what? It was all laid out there in front of them. It wasn't. We made up all of the roles that we hired for. When we hired a creative director, who has a creative director for creators?
No one knows
What is that?
For a while I wanted to be one, and then I realized I have no idea.
Right, but go back to 2014. Did anyone have a channel manager in 2014? We hired one. We made up the role. Maybe Defy had some for Smosh or something like that. I don't know. MCN's had something like that, but not for individual channels probably, right? And so a lot of the roles we made up, and so a lot of the training we made up. And at some point, we knew intuitively what the formula for a theory was, but it actually wasn't that intuitive for people coming in, and we were realizing that if we were auditioning writers, the formats were all over the place, and we also didn't even have we didn't even have a set font for scripts until last year.
We still don't, honestly.
No, there's a style guide.
We probably there's a style guide which I fundamentally disagree with. No one's using the same guide.
We spend 90% of our time on fonts.
We all put the style guide together. If you're not using the style guide, that is on you, my friend.
I'm just saying. There's a style that works for me, and then there's a style that works for the creative directors when they take over.
Wow. There's the him and there's everybody else.
No. But I
appreciate that. It's good that you're out. It's good that you appreciate that.
Here's where it came in, though, and I think that to answer the question, where it really started was you get to a point where there's only so much research that Matthew Patrick, can do in a given week on a topic, right? And as you scale the business outward and YouTube speeds up the production process and you're producing more videos at a faster rate, I want to make sure that we're still delivering a high quality of research every week, each and every time, but we're also trying to cover new trending topics that I'm not familiar with, right? When we launched Film Theory, and Marvel becomes kind of one of our tentpole pieces of content for the better part of 6 years, I did not grow up as an avid comics reader. And so if all of a sudden you're asking me to pull from the deep lore of Iron Man or obscure character from Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever, and how that kind of came to win, I was not equipped to handle that. And so that's why we had all these freelance writers and researchers come in. We would audition them, we would have them come in and write a spec script, give us a sample of their research, and they would, because then all of a sudden they were coming in with the experience that I didn't have. They had better research and better knowledge of where to go and could produce theories that I would have never been able to have come up with myself because I just didn't grow up in any of those IP, right? And when you suddenly bring on a slate of freelance writers, you need a way to communicate to them hey, this is what we're looking for. This is the format that we're working with. And I think that was kind of the era where we didn't officially write it down. We had maybe some vague bullet points and some vague hey, here's kind of the rough outline that you kind of follow. It wasn't formalized into a brand Bible or anything like that.
I don't even like that word. I don't know. I feel like when you put something in terms of oh, this is our brand Bible and this is the only structure you can work in, I think that's really limiting for people. people.
Oh, yeah.
The idea was to give people support,
Yes.
right? When writers came to us and they were like, oh my gosh, I just feel so overwhelmed. Like this topic seems huge. I don't even know where to begin. What we could do is say like, okay, really though, when you break it down, like put your thesis in, put in your evidence points. There's a little twist at the end, something unexpected, and then there's a conclusion, and you got it. And they're like, oh, thank God. And then they can go away, and then they can find really cool stuff. They just needed like some kind of guardrails. So it's really about we want to put up a safety net for people.
Yeah.
We don't want to put people in a situation where they feel constrained, because no one functions well in that. Then you come out with stuff that doesn't feel real, that doesn't feel like it's a complete thought. It feels like it was just cut to fit in a certain shape box.
Yeah, and then there's still bespokeness to every episode, right? Like us figuring out the secret recipe of KFC is going to look fundamentally different than me wearing edible underwear. It's going to look very different from me eating a Christmas tree to me solving the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's.
We really do all those things, by the way.
Yeah,
We really
right.
eat the Christmas tree.
Right.
It really tastes that bad.
And so within that structure, that very broad structure, there's a lot of nuance and opportunities for exploration, and the episodes don't feel samey because you are able to explore all these fun things, and there are areas in there that you're able to like mix up the intros and find new creative outlets. Again, that's the beauty of the format is if we're covering an analog horror series on film theory, that fundamentally affects the scripting and how it fundamentally affects the editing. And that episode is going to look and feel and sound very different from when we're covering, like I said, Marvel or Bluey, right? Where it's like now the colors are different. Everything is very bespoke, which has been hard. And I mean, it's one thing to say like, oh yeah, we follow a format and that has allowed us to scale, but we're still creating each and every week like a full slate of bespoke things to fit whatever the topic of the week is.
So you've mentioned freelance writers.
Yes.
How big actually is the organization? Like how many people do you feel responsibility for as you usher them into this next chapter?
Yeah.
It's grown a lot in the last year, right? So we sold Theorist at the end of 2022, so like a little over a year ago. And at that time we had 9 full-time employees, and that was sort of on the bigger side that we'd ever been. We'd gone up and down a little bit, and then about 20 freelancers, I think, at that point. Yeah. And now we have 22 full-time and another 20 freelancers, right? So it's been a huge change.
Whoa.
And it's been a lot of like ushering people in, and we've spent a massive amount of time training people in the last year. And I think that's actually sort of a hallmark as well in terms of like feeling responsibility for people. There's feeling responsibility financially, but there's also feeling responsibility professionally. I think one of the things that has been the most satisfying about being a business owner, other than just the accomplishment of being like, oh, I did this, like, we're actually successfully running a business. We aren't breaking any laws. We are functioning and profitable. All this stuff, whatever.
You never know the laws that you don't know. Like,
the laws you don't know.
I mean, that's a
right.
good cover, for
yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Guys, knocked on wood. Knocked on wood.
Laminate. But there's the responsibility for people professionally. A lot of people who come into this world, I think, and you work with a lot of creatives, there's being motivated enough by money to want to cover your paycheck and live a decent life, right? But beyond that, money often isn't the biggest motivating factor for people. It's opportunity, it's responsibility, it's creativity, right?
It's a cool factor.
It's a cool factor. Yeah. And one of the things that I'm most proud of, just in terms of the way that we've structured the business and the way that we've grown it, is by offering people opportunity, we've been able to see the best in them.
So I think there's this, the first thing I want to bring up is I think one of the biggest challenges in our industry right now is hiring.
Yeah.
And team building.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that is something that we're faced with. I think that might change a bit in the coming years as the crop of people who's just coming up and producing really cool stuff online realizes they don't want to be entrepreneurs and they would prefer to be a part of a team. I think that actually the workforce will change, which will be really interesting. The team building is really hard. And everything you're describing is like, it is a massive ingredient. If creators are watching this being like, oh man, I'd love to do something similar, your guys' attention to detail into team building and just the dynamics of that, I think is something that cannot be overlooked, because that's one of the hardest parts in a creative business. And even more specifically on YouTube, I think it's increasingly increasingly more and more challenging for people whose channel name is their own personal name. Because then you're sitting in a room and people are throwing ideas out, but that have to do with the show name that's your name.
Right.
You know,
Sure,
and
yeah.
that's really different than I think having like a third party show that's just like we all work on this show
Right.
together.
Yeah.
That's very different than like it's your channel and I'm coming up with ideas for you to do and that represent your name. And I do think that is one of the biggest challenges on YouTube of scaling. Like I think, like we talked about in the beginning, like channels that are personality channels are inherently not scalable. Right. They just can't be.
How do you guys hire people? Do you just like hire people you know? Because for a long time, that's all we could do is hire people we knew because it was so hard to hire anyone else.
I don't even really know like how early days it happened, but like Jesse, I think is a great example of someone who took a video of us at a talk we were giving and DM'd it to us. It was just like a really good looking video.
Yeah.
And I, looked at the DM and I was like, that's cool. And I was like,
you want a job?
Yeah. Do you want to film with us?
Sure.
Like that was cool.
Yep.
And it's been years. You know, I think that was probably 5 years ago.
I will say we always start very small. It's always like come for one project.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come for a week. Come for 3 weeks. Come for let's say a 3-month thing.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, a year passes and it's like, okay, like yeah.
You are de facto an employee now.
Yeah, it's like you are now. You're with us.
But I think there's that like because everything you've described too, the responsibility you feel is I think there's something very different in a creative company when you're working on a creative project because everyone's putting so much of themselves. Like when you're a creative, your identity is wrapped up in your creative work, and so with everyone putting a piece of themselves into this thing, it turns very familial very quickly, right? Like you operate in a very different dynamic than if we were building a tech startup.
Oh, 100%.
Like totally differently. So the dynamic of the team, the culture, the energy of everyone, most of our hires have come from word of mouth or other creators.
Yeah.
Right, they have to.
Like they've come from other creators, like, hey, I'm moving over here. There's this great editor that used to work with me. You guys, like that is actually how one of our editors used to work for Matt Diavello. He left from LA. And then like I like the way Matt works, so I assume if you enjoyed working with this person, we'll like working with them.
Yes.
We didn't know that you could hire someone to hire people. This was a
that was a big
shocking
revelation.
revelation. It was unbelievable.
Super
Right after we were acquired, we got a hiring manager and a recruiter, and she was unbelievable. So good, and she was doing things that we would have never dreamed of doing. She was going to people who had jobs. We were like, we always assume that you hire people because they're like unemployed, wandering the streets, and you just take them in, and you're like, here, I'll give you money and you do things for me. And she was like, no, you go to people who are doing well at their job, and then you poach them. And we were like, what? And so she did that, and she went out and she didn't just like post stuff on a random site, which we also can't do because like if you post stuff, you get 1,000 submissions from people who are 12, and you're like, I walk dogs, and I think I could be your director of everything.
It's amazing how common practice it still is.
Yeah.
On Twitter all the time, I'm like, oh, someone's hiring, and there's an email.
Exactly.
All right, here we go.
Whoa. And that had historically gone very badly for us, and so when we realized that there is a person, and they can hire for YouTube jobs, and because we also were like, oh, a recruiter hires for like regular people companies. They hire for like real companies, not for YouTubers. And so we had never thought of that. And she got completely in the weeds. She got to know exactly what we were looking for, and the candidates she delivered were unbelievably high quality. And she, also had the gall to go and do things that we wouldn't do, like go to other creator businesses and be like, hey, you're working for them, but you could work for these guys over
I was
here.
going to ask that. Like, was she primarily looking within creator companies, or is she finding people in more traditional jobs?
Both.
A mix of everything, yeah.
Yeah, and I think at this point we're also in such an interesting time in the industry, right, where you can pull from both sides. We know people who have hired like traditional industry veterans at different, at all different levels in their company, from like the COO level, but just like producers, writers, all kinds of stuff. But then I think pulling people out of existing creator companies is actually better. So for the most part, they just already come with so much knowledge about the industry, and they already watch the platform, which is so critical, right?
It's critical, and you also have to have the fluidity and flexibility in your mind.
Yeah.
Like things on YouTube change way way faster,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like, and even in a single video,
Yep.
like you have to be very comfortable with that. At the 11th hour, you're like, actually, we're gonna completely redo that VO.
Yep.
And we need a completely different graphic for that.
Wow.
And
completely redo the VO?
Yeah, just like, I don't know, we're just but like that section. I'm saying that
Okay,
section,
okay, I was gonna
not the
say.
whole thing. No, that's
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm saying there's like a section, and you're like,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? I have a different idea. Let's do it like that. And like everyone has to be on board with that's how this works.
Yeah.
If we need to punch something in, we're gonna punch it in, and we're gonna do it differently.
Sure.
It's not as like structured. It's a lot more fluid. Creativity. Or maybe that's why our production timelines are so long. But yeah.
No. I mean, no, it's totally true. And I'm just thinking about I'm thinking about all the times that we have videos going up on Saturday, and we have to change the thumbnail because we've been working on the thumbnail all week, and then it's like, all right, it's Friday afternoon. That's not working.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, we're gonna change the thumbnail.
Oh, you're right.
And everyone's like, you can see everyone just slowly boiling underneath.
Thumbnail roll back.
Terrible.
Right, crazy. Yeah.
But it happens a lot, right? And you have to be able to be like, this sucks, but we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Yeah. No, totally. But it is one of those things too, like because of how post-production heavy our shows are, and because everything is animated, we had to solidify very early on what that workflow was and how to make it sustainable, and how once my VO is in, it's pretty much a lock.
You're not touching it.
Which is why all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
all of that
You
has
tell
to
them
be retimed.
the VO has to change, and it's like,
No.
what?
No, you're allowed maybe a line or two here or there in an emergency situation, but for the most part, it's there, right?
Wow. But is there an ultimate like decision maker on that show? Is it you?
Yeah, I mean it's me or it's the creative director in this case now. We also have a head editor.
That's what a creative director is.
And that is and that's one of the things too is like there are guidelines in place to structure like, oh, you have an easy ease in, and we want to use Matt every X number of seconds, or like if you're using pre-existing video footage, you credit it this way and you do X, Y, and Z frames around it, this and that. So there are rules and structures, but there's still that like little nuance that exists there that kind of makes it a little bit spicy and different for every single person.
Because the first time on the show, we brought up the easy ease keyframe transition.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge it. That's kind of a big.
It's huge.
Moment.
That's a massive moment.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thanks for bringing that to the table.
Yeah, of course. That's a big one for anyone out there. Easy ease. Top notch.
Easy ease. Ease in. Ease out.
Right. But it's also all over the place. But it's also one of those things too, where like we had to coach everyone to aim for 85%, which is a weird thing to say. Like we are.
We had to tell them to tone them down.
Yeah, we are chronic
What do
overachievers.
you mean? Aim for 85%.
So our editors would kill themselves and work so many extra hours and like to get the perfect edit, and I need to create this entire thing in Blender and it needs to be perfection, and I'm creating, this for this 30-second bit, I'm spending the next like 8 hours to craft. And it's like, I appreciate that. I love that you want to do that. And that is why you are here. Like,
but we can't
for
do it.
No, but for your sake and for the sake of the channel and for the sake of all of us, we have to aim for 85%. Like, if we got to like 85% of the way there and we're like, yes, that looks good. Like, that is great. And then the next time, in between uploads or whatever, that's when we kind of work. That's when we train. Save that. Use it in the next one. Because that's how you create that sustainability. Otherwise,
they burn out.
We would all burn out.
Play into how the brand shows up. Like part of it's sustainability, part of it is the brand is a bit DIY. Like there are elements of how the brand looks from the beginning that we have retained a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And 100%. If we go 110% into 30 seconds, it's going to look potentially too polished.
Oh yeah, and yeah, there's definitely a lot. There's a lot of that actually, and I don't think that surfaces a lot, right? One of the things we mentioned to you guys before we started here was that we still work out of our house. Which is people I think think is wild.
Yeah,
it's wild.
And
we've gone back and forth over the years, right? We were in our house, then we had a studio for a while out here when we were in LA, and then when the pandemic hit and everyone was remote anyway, we were like, well, everyone's just gonna work remote, and we rented out the studio and we moved to North Carolina. But when we moved to North Carolina, we intentionally got a place that was big enough that we could have a whole floor, now 2 floors, dedicated to studio space. And over time, as our team has grown, especially this last year, our whole house is basically just overrun with production. We live in like 3 rooms, and then the rest of our house is all just production stuff, right? And so there's a lot of complications with that. Again, work-life integration, not work-life balance.
Yeah.
It's all work-life
You're always at
integration.
work, yeah.
You're always at work.
Which is home.
Which is home when when we film that style theory video about about soap and washing your legs in the shower, that was in our actual shower. You know, like there's an episode coming up where we hire a stylist and they go through our closet. Those are our real clothes. Those are my real clothes she's throwing away, right? So when you have that, you don't have to fake authenticity, right? You're not building a bedroom set and being like, oh my gosh, guys, look, here's my outfit of the day, and it's filmed in a studio. You know, you're actually in your house, and so you don't have to put on a layer of authenticity. It's actually there, and it honestly, it saves time. It's efficient.
You know, that what you just said is like it does make it more efficient. It makes it more personal.
Yeah.
These are all things that start to get put into question as you scale.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the
exactly.
loss of you know of that feel, that personal connection and whatnot.
I mean, yes and no. Like the creative directors, you know, who are basically mini me's. Like you've been this whole time. You're like, what's a creative director? A creative director is like they are the me for each individual channel, and they've been helping to spearhead the creative. They've been giving the notes on.
They
all
stress
the
out
edits.
in the background a lot. So
Right.
they sit in the background and they
Yeah.
fret.
They take some of the stress.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean they're YouTubers, right? They're doing all the job that I did back in the day when I had my full attention to doing that.
Yeah.
And as I've had to scale up, I've had to lose parts of that, but they are now they are the YouTubers for their individual channels, and now they're rising up to the area where it is their channels now. Like, and for the last year, I've been saying, hey, these are your channels. When these are your channels, when you are the host of these channels, they are yours. And so you're right that me stepping away loses some of that authenticity, but it doesn't, because now all of a sudden it's
just
you know,
somebody else's
it's going to be filming in Amy's bathroom now, and it's going to be filming in Lee's
Good
or
luck to
Santi's
her.
kitchen. You know?
Like a huge X factor for being able to sell to LunaX.
Of
Yeah.
course, of
Like
course.
that's that role alone, actually, creative director.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that role, the way Jimmy has talked about this,
Sure.
when we talked to him, is that the only way to train that role is they have to shadow him for years. Is that how those roles have come together and like how they've gotten up to speed? Is just like there's going to be a period of time you're just going to have to watch me do it.
I mean,
There are
I
a few
would,
things.
I would
Yeah.
say, I mean, first off, pretty much all of them have been a part of the team, you know, no less than 3 years. I think Tom was 3 years, but he was a freelance writer for a couple years before that. Amy's been on staff for 7 years, and Lee was our third editor, so he's been around for like 10 years. So while they haven't officially shadowed me for all that time, they have grown up alongside the channel, right? They have watched it, they have consumed it, they have been
They all
an
come out of the
integral
community,
part of
right?
it, right? Like,
And so what does it mean to shadow someone? Like it doesn't make sense to follow Matthew around an office for days or weeks at a time, but it does make sense to be an integral part of the community. It makes sense to have grown up with the videos. It makes sense to have edited the videos. It makes sense to have made thumbnails for the videos. That is in effect shadowing exactly what the brand is, what the format is, what the videos are. And so once you sort of have that kind of like under your skin and you can't get rid of it, then you're already at the point where you can take what is fun about the format or the pieces of the format that most resonate with you, put that into your own voice, and hopefully carry away. Right?
well, and this again, the beauty of the format personality hybrid, right, is people are like, oh, well, it's going to fundamentally change when you step away. And I said this in the goodbye video, but like they've been writing these videos for the better part a year if not longer, right? They have been appearing in the videos on the sidelines and in shorts and stuff for the better part of a year. You know, Lee has been literally editing the videos and giving notes on those videos for the better part of 10 years. And so, yes, me stepping away changes the voice who's reading those words, but at the end of the day, like, the scripting largely should stay the same. You know, there'll be tweaks to the personality and there'll be tweaks to some of the jokes and things like that, but for the most part, they've grown up in that structure and they've been writing that structure for the better part of a year. Without people realizing it, I've just been presenting their words, and now they're just the ones presenting their own words,
And
which is
you're
cool.
presenting it with also the flavor of post-production too, right?
Yes.
Because it's like it's both ends of that
Exactly.
that really make the show.
Right. And the post-production team, we cannot, like, our editors are phenomenal. Like, they're more animators than they are editors, and we call them the editors, but they're absolutely
To
animators.
fill 20 minutes, right? Like a 20-minute VO bed,
Yep.
as I'll call it,
Yep.
is hard to fill visually.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that is really hard to fill.
4 times a week.
Yeah.
Every single week. We produce, we burn through 11 videos every single week. We produce around 13 to 15 videos Style Theory, 3 GT Lives, which is our live streaming channel, and then on top of that, now there's new shorts on Game Theory, Film Theory, Food Theory, and Style Theory.
Wow. I don't understand how you do that.
Yeah.
I really, actually, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. Like, is there a role at Theorist, which is like as a creator-driven company that maybe a Vox or a more traditional media company would never have, like that is making this possible? How are you?
Yeah, like how are they not, right? Like how is like a Vox not putting out that much?
I think there's a point of pride in being a part of this channel and knowing that what we're creating is substantial and meaningful and high quality and putting it out into the world. And again, it goes to that ethos of us as a collective working together. It's a lot, and it is. I call the number of videos that we create at this point disgusting, because it is like it is. When you say, "Hey, congratulations, we finished our 11 videos for the week.
Start
Let's do it again." You know,
That's crazy.
it's
Yeah.
wild. You know, but
I'm no math
So-
guy, but 44 videos a month.
right.
It's a lot of videos.
It's a lot of videos.
Yeah, so I
at
think
the
along
quality you guys.
Yeah, and
the TLDR is like we've clearly gotten them to drunk the Kool-Aid. We've clearly all the way bought into our own hype, just absolutely deeply bought into our. We're doing something really meaningful here, guys. Get out there. No, there. I mean, but there is a point at you have to be like, okay, guys, like if something goes wrong, we've had like there was a moment last year where it's like something went wrong, we lost some footage for a video, and like it sucks, and you're like, oh my god, we lost this footage, and you know, we've had people like cry about it in the office, like unbelievably upset, and like you do, like at some point you have to go to people and be like,
Who's that?
you know what? It's YouTube.
What's going on in
This is
here?
YouTube video. This is YouTube video.
Oh my.
Nobody died when we lost footage.
Good morning, Sid.
Easy to navigate.
And good morning, Lewis.
Easy on the eyes.
And
Easy.
oh
Turn
my
to
God.
talented freelancers on Fiverr for top-notch website, app, and UX design that check all the boxes. Start now.
Like we're on YouTube, guys. It's okay. Like we're gonna be alright.
Well, and the other thing too, I think, like, is we never ask people to work harder than we ourselves work. You know, and I think that that's a big part of it too. Is, you know, if you think about it, you talk about 44 videos in a month. Up until this announcement, I am in every single one of those videos. I am the one voicing it. I'm the one in front of the camera. I'm the one editing it. Yeah, right. Think about that. Every 44 videos a month, 12 months of the year for 13 years. Like, but it's ramped up to that. But like every single one has been my voice, my face, you know, my notes, whatever it is.
November of last year, Matthew was like, there was like a Friday night where he was like supposed to do some pickups, or he was supposed to like, you know, review some footage or whatever, and he was like, I can't do this because I'm so sick of hearing my own voice. I just hate my voice. Just can't listen to it anymore. And I was like, yeah, of course not. Like this is too much.
And like, you know, I think some people when they saw the announcement video go out about this whole thing, it's like, oh, he's burned out, and oh, he's leaving the platform because he's burned out. It's like, no, actually, like, clearly I could keep doing this from now until forever, right? Like, this isn't burnout. Like, I'm fine. This is fun. It's still enjoyable, but at the same time, I just recognize that it's my time to pass it on. And
man, that looks like pretty Andy.
Pathetic. Y'all niggas got doctorates in Big T. 6 years, by the way. In 6 years, you can have a master's degree. In 6 years, you can have a master's degree. You know that, right? Y'all niggas got a master's degree in Big T, and you can't do nothing with it. But hate bond on the internet. That's what you got. Good luck with that. basically you have the pill right here, and then this is to like stop it, and then I don't know. And so it like spins around. Well, Michael assaulted my dad too. Well, what did my dad do to be fucking hit by him? Nothing. I mean, the lie about my dad, what, I mean, I don't even believe that Michael said that, honestly. I really don't. I'd love to see proof that that's in the fucking message. That Michael said that my dad said anything remotely close to that. Because that's just a bull-faced lie. Like, made up. Just made up shit. And that's what gets me with it. It's like, oh, we can't expose anything, so let's just make up, like, insane lies. Let's circle back to she killed her husband. You know there was an investigation into Charlie's death? Like, fun fact. It was investigated by the NYPD, a task force. A task force investigated my husband's death. I wasn't using when my husband died either. There's people that were around. And then it like fucks with me because things that are like some of the most traumatic things for me in my life, I have to like, okay, there's things that have happened in my life that are very traumatic to me and I even have complex trauma from because it happened over and over again. And I it like have like conditioned myself in like this weird way to be non-reactive to it. And then I find myself in situations where out of nowhere I will be super triggered by the situation and I can't handle it. Because I suppress it. Like I have to constantly act like my DV isn't a big deal. I have to act like my husband's death isn't a big deal. I have to act like people saying that I killed my husband isn't a big deal.
Free muffins.
He can explain that. I'm done. I'm done feeling bad, bro. I'm done. He couldn't give a shit about me enough to just ignore them. I don't give a shit enough about him to ignore them.
I'm in a crack motel.
Everything that I just said, I've said before. It's not any new information. And I think you guys are making the reason why he gets violated. Yes, there was proof.
Banking app? What's nano? Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's gotta be at least a half a gram. That's gotta be a half a gram.
I miss all my little tools.
I can keep this, but I don't want it.
She bit his head?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be getting fucking twisted. I was gonna do mushies, but I don't want to. I only do mushies if I'm like depressed, and I'm not depressed, so. Dex. No, that's Dex. I'm sorry, I can't deal with like my background being dirty. I had my room be fucking my background be dirty for so long. It doesn't. It's gross.
even get?
Yes, I agree. Dreamology is quite creepy. I got an oil on my scalp too. Angelica. Hi, Mora. I've missed you.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
for real. Oh my god, for real.
This kid could need rehab at the rate she's going.
Are you sick?
See, every time, like,
Yeah, she hit it. They definitely hit her limit. Hit that. Can I smoke your hair? Not because of that. Yeah, she was. Ha! Shit.
like, still such a creepy old man. It's raining. I'm sorry to hear that. I cut the ones that were fucked up off. And so now I'm just missing lights that are around my window. And I'll redo those. But I fixed the ones over there. They were unplugged because I'm a dumb bitch.
Oh my word.
Are you gonna let Dex piss on your face like you let Gucci's fucking old creep?
You let Goop pee on him too? And vegan? What the fuck? Ah.
I'm not the one who
Not your fault. Could have been both.
Can somebody come stream side me and nice? Say like if I'm say, oh gosh, text my Peterson. I love your streams. I have to really take care of my hair lately because it's all fucked. Kimberly, I love you too. Do you guys remember Kim Tackett? I think she hates me now, and I'm sad about it because she used to be like a mod here. She used to always come over around. Now she like is super cringe chat.
Like,
I had a bidet growing up. My mom had a bidet in her bathroom, so I used to always like I used it obviously.
nice.
It's pretty cool.
I woulda.
It's a good thing to have. I mean, if you don't have a bidet, I would just say get a removable shower head. That way, like you go in the shower and like clean the right way.
You should have a water pick.
This is the Miel rosemary mint scalp and hair strengthening oil.
Oh.
Just like oil, scalp oil. I don't know. 4:30 by the way. Just kidding, I didn't do 4:20. And I was smoking weed. Well, that sucks for you. Dude, it could be painless. I'm here. So, if you see me, yeah, I have a removable shower head, and it does the trick. I don't know how people shower without a removable shower head. I don't understand how people get clean. I just don't. It's like there's crevices in your bodies.
Wet cloths.
I got this from Target.
This channel does not promote or encourage any illegal activities. All contents provided by this channel is meant for educational purpose only.
Hey yo, not chat. Future X? Why? Why on earth? Why X?
Happy 420.
She's not crazy enough.
I have those yoga pants, by the way. Ah, the same exact pants.
Oh,
Trump used to call me his future ex-wife. And he used to call
nice.
me his future baby mama before we ever dated. When we were just friends. Me and Charlie were friends for years before we did anything. And like he used to hit me up and be like, oh, when we having a baby? Oh, when we getting married?
Haha.
And then one day I took him up on it. So let's get married.
That does
That's
work.
really how it happened. Like, there's no other way to like explain it. Like we just, I guess like he let me know for like 2 years that he was interested, and after like fucking around for those 2 years, like I was like, nah, he's it. And we dated for literally a month, and then we got married a month later. We dated April, and we got married in May. I mean, I was pregnant by you. Why? No way. No way. I don't believe you. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Is this real life? I just got my period. If there's nacho fries this week at Taco Bell, oh my god. My life couldn't get any better. Literally, my life couldn't get any better. Let's get married. I just wanna get married. Meet me at the altar in your white dress. We ain't getting no younger. We might as well do it. Feeling all the wilder. A little something. Let's get married. I just wanna get married.
420 in Germany.
I wanna come home to you and only you. I want Taco Bell to come back with that pulled fucking beef, that pulled beef, because that shit was fire.
I hear Trish has got a ton of that pulled beef. Been lucky too.
Sorry, I'm just like, they don't have nacho fries as of now. We'll figure it out as the weeks come. I've been super emo and like fucked up because I'm getting my period, and as I get older, my period is more and more intense, I've noticed. I never
Oh, you look
I
good.
could kind of like get away with wearing my hair like this, like on greasy hair days.
Hell yeah.
Not bad. It's really not. It's not bad. What's going on? I don't like the way my hair looks up. Fun fact about me. That's why I wear the space bun.
Oh, you are
Because I
Italian.
feel like that's the only way that I could keep my hair up and it doesn't. I don't look like a fucking retard. Oh, thank you.
Oh man, come on now. You already knew this said that. Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
Android boy went into a game that Cyrax was playing and he trolled him. Here, listen, I want to say something. If Crystal and okay, if Crystal was just like a special needs person that wasn't an awful person, then I would say it's wrong for her to be fucked with. But she neglected her child till her baby turned blue. She's racist. She's just an awful person. Same thing goes for fucking Cyrax. He's PDF. You know, I don't think people make fun of him because he's special needs. I think they make fun of him because he's PDF, but it's funny. They also make fun, you know.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want people being like, "Oh, you're laughing at a special needs couple." No, I'm laughing at pieces of shit.
I mean, technically, but by accident.
People say that's the reason why they laugh at me. I don't know. I'm a piece of shit exactly. Apparently, because I got into an accident with my kid in the car.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to
No, I didn't
Tuesday.
even click on that.
Taquitos.
My hair is hella greasy. Well, now I'm curious. Now what is in her dumbass title? Now you piqued my interest. Yeah, they're comparing Crystal to the mom. I like the one that had the cream cheese and the jalapeno. I like that one. Delicious.
I did. I went back and bought nachos. Speedway. Oh, cannolis. Oh, I always hit. I.
Indulge. She's nuts.
Oh, she sounds like she sued a lot of people.
I'm not a whale like that. I'm normal.
Killer whale.
You know that Zero's Nightmare used to be a donor of mine? I just realized that the other day.
Yeah. Dolphin. Or orca too, I think.
I don't know what I did with his demo, but I appreciate your donation years ago.
oh, 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 oh. Damn bacon right over here. I am going there now. Suddenly. Thanks for cannoli. I'm filling up on motherfucking cannolis. %. Trapped beneath all that garbage.
Whoa.
Sweated?
Real smokers don't like care about 420. I'm not like doing anything special. I smoked a crush joint. That was when I think it's 420.
For
I don't, the water get in it, and then I won't be able to charge it. It's gonna sell me. It just, the only thing that bothers me, not really bothers me, but that's like crazy about it is, when I was with him and he was living with me and he was part of my streams, they were calling CPS, telling CPS that he was, beating me up. When I was with him and he was here, they were calling CPS. People were calling his probation, telling his probation that he was putting hands on me, like sending in videos and shit. Like, why do you think his parole officer made him move? It's just like, I don't know, crazy. Like I said, when he was around, people were saying that he did something inappropriate to my daughter. But now he's just he's some sort of victim. A victim that pled guilty to, like, so stupid. I don't think that, I don't know. That's all.
Catherine. Cool.
I haven't even talked about fucking Trisha's fucking shriveled up ass.
Mm.
Fucking weird ass bitch.
I'm gonna.
Trisha, you should date Michael. You should have him paroled to your house. You know, since he's this great guy,
Get some cash
why
right
don't
now.
one of you guys have him paroled to your house? Have him date your sister, so the females in your family.
Oh, yeah.
If Michael's so innocent, introduce him to one of the chicks in your family. Such a great guy, such a catch. Y'all want to send him money and shit. Have him paroled to your crib. Have him dating your daughter, since he's such a nice guy.
Also good morning.
So innocent. I'm just saying, like, if this is who you, like, really go support him. Go. Have him dating your daughter. Tell me how it fucking works out. Because in order for change to occur, person has to be cognizant that they did something wrong. They have to accept accountability
No.
for their actions. And you're claiming that he never did it, so I know it happened. But if he's such this great, innocent fucking victim of me,
No.
up to y'all to do. What up, Nana?
No.
Bro, I'll say this. My fucking short-term goal is to really fucking start, like, really working full-time and stack bread and get the fuck up out of New York. The cops here, really, they can't do much. Too much other fucking crime. It's such a liberal fucking city that nothing gets fucking done. I need to get the fuck up out of here.
School, Nana.
So easy to play with somebody's life, like, when it's not your own. Hell pathetic, too. Yeah. I didn't spend the past fucking 2 years of my life wasted on a strange woman. So
Real.
I find fucking comfort and solace in that.
Uh-oh, I better check my chat. Nana's gonna be over here freaking out. No, he's not. Good.
Or like, there's people out here that pretend that they're empaths, right? But they'll do the most fucking underhanded snake shit to someone that they don't like. The whole point of being an empath is that you have the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes, whether you like them or not.
Yeah.
You know, the inability to do that lets everybody know that you're not a fucking empath.
Psychopath.
An empath would have a problem getting people in trouble for the fuck shit they do because they don't want, they know what it feels like to like fuck up and not, they don't want to get people in trouble. That's what an empath is for. Just saying.
For real.
The reason why I never called fucking CPS on any of you fucking terrible fucking parents. Because I know what it's like to have fucking idiots from the internet fucking insert themselves into my life and call child services and they may not even know the whole story. That doesn't take away from the fact that when people call on you, it's probably valid. So, there's that. Like, I've had people call the CPS making up outlandish fucking lies. People call CPS and tell the truth about shit. That's the difference. Like I said, you could win this internet shit. I'm
Hitler's
for it.
birthday?
I'll continue to win in real life.
Nah. 420 is just.
God damn it.
It could be a reason to smoke weed, but not really a good one.
Why do I keep cheerful on 420? It's not Christmas. It's just that a lot of these things supersede state lines, and because of that, they become federal. And there's no federal laws that govern this fucking online fucking bullshit. So, like, it's difficult to prosecute.
For real. Got it. More than happy to. Like and sub. Where's the sub?
two that I wore the most, that I liked the most, so now I have to. Allison Army still has them, but I don't know. Can't do four of them right now. It hits differently in different cities. Why? I mean, my name has little to nothing to do with controlling anything, so. I control my life. Make my life pretty
Use that works.
decent. My life is fine. Well, I have to go. I sort of have to go somewhere, so I have to like put on clothes in advance.
Word. I think you're. I think you're winning. Oh yeah.